Defense made a motion for a mistrial. Prosecutor was up to some fuckery. Potentially damaging evidence, no basis for it. The judge specifically said, do not ask that question. Do not use that as evidence. She walked right down the path and asked the question. It may be over on Tuesday morning. Batman Bruce Wayne bitch snitch. Gerald Brooks, your constitution does not apply to me because I'm a sovereign citizen, a traveler on the land, I'm the Moorish Empire or whatever, bitch snitch. Because they're so fucking absurd. If you want to be a sovereign citizen, just do yourself a favor first. Go to YouTube here and just get every sovereign citizen that's ever been before. Find me one that won. God dang, you're right. Don't go down this. It's not the path. Don't have time for stupidity. Some clever dick on the internet didn't find the great loophole in all of the world's law. Bitch snitch. God dang, you're right. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. Moorish Empire, traveler on the land, bitch snitch, Moorish Empire, God dang, you're right, traveler on the land, bitch snitch. The late evening U.S. people. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, however good it feels and all that other stuff, welcome. I don't care. I don't care about all those things. I'm just glad you're here with me because today is Thursday. It is Retro Trial Thursday, where we go back in time and we look at important cases that have shaped the legal landscape of, if not the United States, possibly even the world. And this case is one of them. We're going back to 1997 for this case. This is the case of Massachusetts versus Woodward. Now, Miss Woodward, she was 18 years old at the time this incident took place, and she was 19, I believe, when it went to trial. Went to trial pretty quickly. She's accused by the state of Massachusetts of murdering a 9-month-old baby, where she was acting as the nanny for the baby. She's from England. And the family lived obviously in Massachusetts. They said, and this is the case. This is we all know the term shaken baby syndrome. It's because of this case. Like we talked about a lot of things, how O.J. Simpson's trial that brought the race card to the forefront of it. Brought if it does not fit, you must acquit. It got lots and lots of memes. A lot of it, being funged, that's where that term came from. It brought about reform all across the not just the Los Angeles Police Department, but around all police departments across the nation. But this trial, this deals with shaken baby syndrome, what it is, and what's all involved. Now, unlike the Leilani Simon trial we watched a little while ago, where it was just a horror show and we knew what was going on, this is a legitimate case where, however it turns out, and no spoilers, I know how it turns out. Some of you know how it turns out, but a good number of you apparently don't know how this case turns out. So no spoilers, please. However, regardless of however this case turns out, there are arguments to be made on both sides, whether this was a fair judgment or not. Doesn't matter which side of the equation you're on, because this trial is very, very interesting. The state says she shook the baby to death and then threw it in a pile of clothes. Now, the defense has already, in their opening statements, which we watched last time, said that these injuries happened long before the day the baby died. So there was an undisclosed or undiscovered wrist fracture, at least 6 weeks old. The head injuries that they were talking about as being a cause of death, apparently the baby was showing symptoms of those head injuries 4 or 5 days before the death. So we're already off to the races. We listened to some 911 calls last time. So we're going to be picking up with the second witness of the trial here in just a quick moment. But before we do that, again, we have to announce that right now, today is day 75 of the Emotional Support Potato Pig Dog Cam. We are 3/4 of the way to triple digits. And if we keep the streak alive, that should happen right about the second week of January. So are we going to keep the streak alive? Are we going to unleash the Emotional Support Potato Pig Dogs? They are both sitting right here. It's entirely up to you guys. You've been incredibly generous these past few days. Are we going to keep it up? Are we going to get there? Are we going to get to the Hyundai to unleash the Emotional Support Potato Pig Dogs? Or will the streak die here? It's entirely in your hands. Do with it as you wish. What else we need to talk about before we get going? Oh, yes. Quick. Mama Story says, Jeff, fresh home from a date with a lady friend, looking very sharp. No, this is the shirt I wore to the office and another hat. I changed hats. Now, I tomorrow I'll be able to start wearing cowboy hats again. It's still these are because they're a little bit warm for the house, but my previous earphones had a 2-year warranty on them. They literally crapped out. One side crapped out 2 years and 1 week after I purchased them. I think there was a time bomb in them or something. But anyway, nope, this is just what I wore to the office and then threw on another hat. Yeah. So the one thing I did have to mention for those of you watching live, this is a thing. For those of you watching on replay, probably doesn't really matter. But Friday, tomorrow, I was going to be leaping back into the swamps of Otter County in Levy County, Florida, to look at the federal lawsuit, all of the documents filed in relation to the federal lawsuit involving Lynette Preston and Jeremy Hales. But we're going to have to delay that till Monday. Why do we have to delay that until Monday? Because just when you thought you were out, they pulled you back in again. Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone has risen from the grave. We will be looking at her motion for a new trial, which was very swiftly and without comment denied at her sentencing. We'll look at that. But also Sarah Boone has filed a 28-page handwritten letter. She's back to writing letters. And this 28-page letter that Sarah Boone wrote is the Sarah Booniest of all Sarah Boone letters that have come down the pike since this thing started. This is the most unhinged letter I have seen her write yet. And that is saying one hell of a lot when you're talking about her. So that's what we'll be looking at tomorrow. Her grounds for wanting a new trial, which was denied, and her response to her sentencing. Ugh. So that's what's coming up tomorrow. And then Monday we'll wade into the swamps of Levy County, Florida. Well, actually not Levy. There'll be the district, the federal district court that handles that area. And then a week from tomorrow, we should be getting back to Maritime Monday. So stay tuned for that. And the like and subscribe poll is up. It's some of us don't have people to be with on the holidays. Some people feel a little bit lonely. Some people want something to do. Some people just want a break from preparation and things. So I put up the poll here. Please like, please subscribe and vote. Do we need a Christmas Eve for those of you in the States, or a Christmas morning for those of you in Europe and over here in Asia? Do we need a Christmas Eve, Christmas morning with the law racks? We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the voting says. Simple. This one's just yes or no. No snide, clever comments. But all right, here we are. We are ready to get back into day 2, and we have one super chat to put us down the road towards Doggo Cam, and that is from Frenchie's mom. Oh, look at the little Frenchie. 2 Frenchies. Hello, Frenchies. Frenchie's mom for the doggy cam. Go, go, go. Well, that puts us well on the road. Thank you so much for that, Frenchie's mom. And as always, super chats will be read when they can be at natural breaks and pauses in the trial and whatnot, or just when I think it's time. That, I believe, is it, other than to announce that Pop Princess, earlier today became a new member, the newest member. She upgraded her membership to the Bent Halos and Broken Wings level. Thank you so much for doing that, Pop Princess. That was darn nice of you. Thank you so very much. I'm glad that I provided some sort of product that that you thought was worthy of an upgrade. Okay. That's it. So Sarah Boone tomorrow, back to Otter Creek and the federal district of Otter Creek on Monday. Let's jump into this. And we got to go. We do currently have 121 viewers here on the tubes and a total of 178 across the board. So 50 more on Twitter and Rumble. And that's just keep hitting whatever like button you are. But if you have the opportunity, come on over here to YouTube. We're fun. We have a great chat. You're totally missing out on the greatest chat on the entire internet. So come on over here and join the Vice Squad. All right, shall we get into it, people? I think we should. Right, let me pull up the screen here. Add to the stage. There we are. That's our square. That's our square. We got a square here. It's an old TV square-o-vision, which means I can do this. Flux says I should do a Krampus reading on Christmas. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens at Christmas. Oh, and speaking of Christmas, mods and other people, please take notice of the last thing that I have to comment on the date of Friday, the 20th, I believe it is. Friday the 20th, is that correct? Yes, Friday the 20th, on the evening of Friday the 20th. It will be a very moddy Christmas. So mods, plan to hang out here. The mods will get the link for that, and then the mods, as they see fit, can come and join. And we'll just do a full stream here with the mods, so you can meet the mods, see who they are, what they're doing, hear them, maybe see them if that's what they want. And everything will be super awesome. So let's keep note of that. Friday, the 20th of December, 2024. Okay. Same time as always, Nicola. Same time. That's it. All right. So let's push play on this and see where we go. We have our first new witness of the day. We went through, I said, the opening statements and the first witness last time. And today we're going to be starting with what's the guy's name? Responding Newton police officer Eric Braceland. We'll watch Eric Braceland first. That's our dude of the day. But before we get underway, putting us a huge 20% of the way to emotional support potato pig dogs is Adair K. Release the hounds. Ooh, we're working on it. We're working on it. We'll see if that's what everybody else wants. It's up to them. Right. Let's hit it. I'll tell you what. Let's unmute it and then hit it. Make sure our volume's up. All right.
My name is Eric Braceland. My birthday's September 8th, 1969.
Wow. Interesting. He is 2 months and 3 days younger than me.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Braceland, how are you employed?
Police officer with the city of Newton.
And how long have you been a police officer with the city of Newton?
Almost 4 years now.
And prior to becoming a police officer in the city of Newton, what did you do?
I was an EMT with an ambulance company for almost 3.5 years.
Officer, on February 4th of 1997, were you working that day?
Yes, sir, I was.
Were you at the 3:30 roll call at Newton PD?
Yes, I was.
And where were you headed after roll call?
I was assigned to Newton Highland Square.
On your way to Newton Highland Square, did you have occasion to receive a call?
Yes, I did.
And did that call ask you to respond to a location?
And this is take your pick. This is either prosecutor Quimby or prosecutor John F. Kennedy or prosecutor Robert F. Kennedy? Choose whichever one of those three you think he sounds most alike.
Yes, I did.
And where was that location?
It's 33 Beamuth Road.
How did you respond to that location?
I was in my own personal vehicle, and I have blue lights, and I activated them and drove over there.
When you got to 33 Beamuth Road, did you have occasion to see Cruiser 498?
Yes, I did. It was parked out front.
Did you know at that time whose cruiser that was?
Yes, Officer Hugh Downing.
Car
Downing in the cruiser
54,
at that
where
time?
are you?
No.
What did you do next, Officer Braceland?
At that point, I called it. I was off the location and went to the front door of the house.
What observations did you make when you got to the front door of 33 Beamuth Road?
So it was a screen door, and the inner door was open.
What did you do?
I opened the door, and I observed the defendant walking towards me wearing a terry cloth robe, white robe, and she had a phone in her hand.
Did you say something to her at that time?
I asked, "Where's the baby?"
Did she respond to you?
No, she didn't.
How many times did you ask her where the baby was?
I asked her twice.
Did she respond either time?
No, she didn't. She turned around and started heading towards the kitchen, back towards me.
What did you do then?
I called out Officer Downing's name, and he responded that he was in the dining room.
What did you do then, Officer Braceland?
I rushed to the dining room and assisted Officer Downing, who was with Matthew.
What observations did you make of Officer Downing at that time?
Officer Downing was kneeling down on the left side of the Matthew. He was kneeling over, it appeared to be assessing his breathing.
What did you do at that time?
I knelt down on the right side of Matthew and assisted in the emergency care.
What observations did you make of Matthew as you kneeled down next to his body on the floor?
Matthew was not alert. His breathing was, I'd have to describe it as labored, approximately 4 to 6 breaths a minute. Officer Downing checked his pupils, and I noticed they were dilated. His arms were stuck in the air. Both arms were extended in the air, sort of like this. He was laying on his back.
For the record, you've extended your arms, palms down, outward in front of your body.
Yes.
What other observations did you make of Matthew other than his arms to be stiff and straight out?
He was wearing a green outfit, I believe. I'm sure it was green. His arms and his feet were exposed.
By exposed, you mean there were no clothing on his feet or his
no clothing.
hands?
As far as I can remember, to my recollection, his sleeves were rolled up in his chest. The collar of the shirt was opened up.
And what did you do at that time with regard to Matthew?
I just was feeling for a pulse, and at this time, Officer Downing asked me to go out to the cruiser and pick up a ambu bag, which is a bag valve mask that assists in breathing if need be.
And as you left the kitchen area to try and obtain that bag, where was the defendant at that time, Officer Braceland?
The defendant was in the far corner. If you'd have walked down the hallway, it would be the left-hand side of the kitchen.
What? I'm sorry.
She was on the left-hand side of the kitchen.
And what was she doing at that time?
She was on the phone.
What did you do then?
I went out to the door, and as I was going out, that's when the paramedics were arriving. And I called out to them and told them to, come in here quickly and explain what they had to bring.
As the paramedics entered the house, what did you do?
At this point, I had already gone back to Matthew and Officer Downing, and we shouted out our location. And as they came in, myself and Officer Downing stepped to the rear of the dining room towards the entrance to the living room.
And where was the defendant at that time?
She was still in the kitchen, on the phone, I believe, at this point.
What happened then?
What happened then, Officer Paglia came in, and the paramedics were asking the defendant for information on circumstances prior to our arrival.
Was she responding to the paramedics' inquiry concerning Matthew?
No, she wasn't.
What was she doing at that time?
She was still on the phone, and she was inquiring. She wanted to go check on Brendan, who was the older brother of Matthew, who was in the playroom.
Where was Officer Paglia at that time?
He was in the entrance to the hallway.
What happened then, Officer Braceland?
Officer Downing instructed Officer Paglia to go make sure Brendan was all right, and so Miss Woodward could answer the questions.
And as the paramedics came to Matthew, were his arms still stiff and straightforward in the air?
Yes, they were.
What did the paramedics do at that time? What did you observe?
The paramedics, they were only on scene a matter of, I have to say, 1 to 1.5 minutes, and they picked up baby Matthew and took him out into the ambulance, which was parked out front.
At that time, whether or not you had conversation with one of the paramedics, yes or no?
Yes.
This witness doesn't need a microphone. He's just good at shouting. This witness, the prosecutor doesn't need a microphone. He's just really good at shouting. So we'll give him a not talking into the microphone pass, because we can hear him clearly, because he's a shouty Bostonian.
And was that paramedic Brendan McNiff?
Yes, it was.
And do you recall where that conversation took place?
I was standing to the side door of the ambulance out in front of the 33 Beamuth Road.
And as a result of your conversation with paramedic McNiff, what did you do at that time?
I went back to speak to the defendant to find out if there was anything else that she could remember regarding Matthew's condition.
And as you did that, where were the paramedics?
They were pulling away.
As you walked back into the home, did you locate the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And where did you locate the defendant as you walked back into the home?
Right as you walked in the front door.
What happened then?
I just asked if there was anything else she could remember to help the paramedics assist in care for baby Matthew. And
where was Brendan at that time, Officer Braceland?
Brendan was still in the playroom, which is located to the left as you walk in the door.
Now, did you have conversation with the defendant at that time with regard to Matthew?
Yes, I did. I asked her if anything she could help me with, a fall, a seizure, and she stated that he just wouldn't stop crying. He just wouldn't stop.
What else did you say with regard to Matthew at that time?
She stated that Matthew was crying. He vomited. She stuck her finger in his mouth to make sure that he wasn't choking. She may have appeared to be choking on his vomit. And she placed baby Matthew in the crib to see if that would stop the crying.
Did she say what she did after she put Matthew in the crib to stop his crying?
I don't recall.
Did you have further conversation with her about what happened after she put Matthew in the crib?
She picked up Matthew, brought him downstairs into the dining room, and that's when she alerted 911.
Did she indicate whether or not she left the room that she had placed Matthew in before going downstairs?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
She just stated she left the room after she put him in the crib.
And did she indicate what happened when she returned?
He appeared to be not breathing. That's when she brought him downstairs and called 911.
At any point, did you ask the defendant whether or not the baby had fell?
Had fallen.
I don't recall.
Do you recall anything about the defendant mentioning anything about a fall?
No, she didn't state that the baby had a fall.
Now, after obtaining that information from the defendant, what did you do?
I relayed the information via my portable radio to the paramedics.
And where did you do that from?
As I was walking out of the house.
You're on your Newton PD issue portable phone?
Portable radio, yes.
What did you do then?
I just alerted them that there was She stated there was no fall, and the episode occurred in the crib, and I cleared and was returned back to my square, Newton Highland Square.
That being Newton Highlands?
Yes, sir.
At some point later, did you have occasion to hear from paramedic Brendan McNiff?
Yes, I did.
And whether or not you called Brendan McNiff at Children's Hospital, yes or no?
Yes, I did.
After having that conversation with paramedic McNiff, whether or not you called Officer Hugh Downing?
Yes, I did.
At some point
We
later
don't
in the
know
evening,
how
did you have
long she was
occasion to
alone
be
yet.
back at 33 Beamuth Road?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall approximately what time you responded to that location later in the evening?
I don't recall the exact time. I have to say in the area of 9 p.m.
Thank you, Officer Braceland. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Cross-examination time. Who's going to be doing the cross-examination? Mr. Good or Mr. Good?
Good morning.
I believe that's his name. Good.
Officer Braceland, I believe you said that when you first saw Louise Woodward, she was on the phone.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was a cordless phone.
Yes, it was.
You've mentioned that you were using a radio.
Yes.
Were you using was the radio on while you were in the residence?
Yes.
And did you notice whether Officer Downing also was equipped with a radio?
Yes, he is.
I take it you can hear, for lack of a better phrase, radio traffic on that radio?
If someone was speaking, yes.
Yeah, and that happened periodically when you were inside this residence?
I didn't speak at all to anyone over the radio when
No.
I was on scene.
My question is, did you hear any radio traffic
I
going
don't
on?
recall.
Don't recall one way or the
No,
other?
sir.
And I think you said that that the child's arms are straight out and palms up or palms down?
I don't recall about the palms. The arms were extended in the air. The baby was laying on his back.
Okay. And you recall Louise Woodward asking, well, you were there when the paramedics took Matthew out of the house, were you not?
Yes, I was.
And do you recall the defendant asking where they were taking Matthew?
No, I don't believe I was. I don't recall.
Do you recall anyone saying where they were going, Children's or Newton Wellesley Hospital, or?
I know personally they went to Children's. I don't recall if they
They
explained.
said
to her.
anything about it at the time? Do you
No,
recall?
I don't recall.
Were you aware at the time, sir, whether or not the defendant, Louise Woodward, was speaking to Matthew's mother on the phone?
No, I have no idea who she was speaking to.
If anybody has any questions about the who, what, when, where, and why of this trial, first place you should always check is the banner scrolling across the bottom of the screen. That answers almost all of your basic questions about the who, what, when, where, and why of this.
I have a...
Yes. Counsel?
May I approach the witness, sir?
All right.
Show you what's been marked. This transcript has been marked as Exhibit 1. I call your attention specifically to page 3. Underneath the paragraphs or the time marking 16:03, that would be 4:03 in the afternoon.
Yes.
And this reflects, does it not, a conversation between yourself and what is referred to as Medic 1?
Yes, it does.
And is Medic 1 the paramedic?
Yes, it is.
And you refer to yourself as Newton Highlands?
Yes.
And in the, let's see, the third statement, you attribute a statement
Oh,
to
looks like
Louise
there's a
Woodward.
shizzy raid. We got a
There, do
shizzy
you not?
whiznut
Yes.
raid. Welcome, shizzy
And the
raiders.
statement says, she says there was no fall. The whole
Thanks, Jake.
episode
That like
occurred
button.
in the crib, in part. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And that's what Louise Woodward told you?
Yes,
And she said you brought you referred to her. Is that right? According to the transcript.
according to this transcript, yes.
That brought her downstairs to the floor there. Do you recall now?
Yes.
Words to that effect? Okay. And this would have been after the paramedics left,
Yes, they were already on the way to the hospital.
on the way to the hospital, and you are still in the vicinity of the house?
Yes,
And you were asked to repeat that, and you responded that Nany states there was no fall, the whole episode occurred in the crib.
yes.
That's all I have, thank you.
Nany, will you read?
No, thank you.
Thank you. You may stand down. Don't discuss your testimony with anybody.
All right, that's the end of his testimony.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, that was short and to the point.
Brendan McNiff to the stand, please.
So Brendan McNiff is coming up next, whoever Brendan McNiff happens to be. Let's find out. Unmute.
Don't speak your full name.
Right.
This guy's an hour long and there are no closed captions for this guy. So let's hope he uses his microphone and speaks clearly. Oh, dang. I was gonna have a bingo card. I promised a bingo card. I forgot until just right now. I'll make a note to myself and we'll get a bingo card set up for next week. I apologize.
Brendan McNiff,
And your date of birth.
January 12th, 1971.
Your name, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McNiff, how are you presently employed?
I'm presently employed by American Medical Response as currently now as a field supervisor.
And on February 4th, were you then a field supervisor?
And I
On
forgot his
February
name
4th, I was a
already.
municipal
Brandon
a
McNiff.
paramedic within one of our municipal contracts.
And when did you become a field supervisor?
Last week.
Oh, good for you. Congratulations. 20
And on
years ago.
February 4th of 1997, you were employed as a paramedic with Chalk Ambulance.
For American Medical Response, formerly known as Chalk Ambulance, yes.
So what's the difference between a paramedic and an EMT?
The differences are in the advanced skills of advanced airway management, advanced cardiac management, pharmacology, which is our therapeutic drugs for which we give.
Who knows more, the EMT or the paramedic?
Paramedic.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, when we
I like the judge. That was interesting. The judge was hurrying this along a little bit. He's like, okay, we don't want to get bogged down in what a paramedic does, what an EMT does. Who knows more? I like that the judge stepped in and asked a question on his own authority. Just tell us who knows more.
were you certified as an EMT?
In 1991,
And what is the basis for an EMT certification?
3 months of training at an institution that certifies you.
And just in general, what type of training do you receive? What
We
areas?
trained in airway management, spinal immobilization, bleeding and bandaging, and so forth.
And when were you certified as a paramedic?
In 1995,
Now, could you explain what the basis is for the certification as a paramedic?
to undergo certification for a paramedic, you need to do a year of school, which requires you to do a full medical rotation, a full program of didactic in learning the sort of the skills that are attributed to like your first year of medical school.
And where did you do your 6-month classroom rotation?
Northeastern University.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Northeastern University.
And where did you do your 6-month hospital ER clinical program?
Norwood Hospital.
And at some point, did you do a field internship?
I did.
And where did you do your field internship?
New York City.
Are you familiar with CPR?
I am.
Do you continue to teach classes in CPR?
I do assist in classes, yes.
And how are you
He hasn't
familiar with the
found the fountain
911
youth. He
system
was
as it
only
relates to
26
paramedics?
years old when this was on
As of,
trial.
February 4th.
But it was 30 years ago.
In regards to receiving a call,
He's 53.
Well,
you
did you do 911 responses at that time?
I did.
How long had you been doing 911 responses?
Since my original certification as an emergency medical technician back as far as 1991.
You presently attending college?
Yes, I am.
And what is the area of training you're receiving now?
I'm pursuing a degree in biology, a bachelor's degree.
Sir, on February 4th of 1997, were you working as a paramedic at that time?
I was.
And who was your partner that evening?
Kevin Wall.
And is there a certain arrangement between partners as paramedics work?
Yes.
And what is that arrangement with regard to who drives the truck and who handles patients?
The arrangement is the driver usually handles the patient care aspects, with the passenger of the vehicle usually assumes control of the patient and sort of facilitates what needs are done.
And when you go to a call, is there another truck which also goes to the call with you?
There is.
And were there two people in that rescue truck that evening?
There were.
And who were those people?
Keith Vars and William Supple.
And sir, at some point, were you dispatched to 33 Beamuth Road in Newton?
We were.
Is he saying Behemoth or Behemoth Road? It just sounds like he's trying to say Behemoth every time. And while we're just talking about the just the regular old run-of-the-mill response stuff, let's take a look here at what's going on in Super Chat Heaven, because we are not very far along the way of the emotional support potato pig dog cam. So we may not reach the goal today, but who cares? We got as far as Adair K. Nicola Maxwell, mod paralegal Liz, please. That accent. Mods need to be earned. We got to earn our mods. Liz. You know, Liz, it's going to take some more time, Liz. You know, you have turned me down the last 3 effing Fridays. It's going to take a little more. Going to take a little more effort, Liz. Welcome, Liz. Good to see you here. And Bush McFadden, new member. What is his new member for like the 497th time? Thank you so much for being a new member of the Clean and Sober crew, Bush. It's been a while. Thank you so much. And that puts us one step closer. We're now, looks like we're 1/4 of the way to emotional support potato pig dogs. 75 to go. And it's entirely in the hands of you, my good viewers.
Can you approximate what time that was?
About quarter of. Oh, actually, I don't have my run slip, but I believe it was.
No. See, this no one needs to do anything. No one needs. This is not a grift stream. Even if it was a grift stream, no one needs to do anything. I don't demand, accept. I mean, of course, I accept. I don't demand or grift too hard or anything. Just. It's entirely, if you can't afford, don't do it. Just hang out here and chat. Just having you here is super, super awesome. So yeah, nobody should feel obligated to do anything. It's entirely voluntary. Whatever. I just graciously accept and humbly accept anything that is thrown my way from your hard-earned earnings. If you got nothing, don't give nothing. If you got a lot and don't want to give nothing, don't give nothing. If you want to give, just do. It's entirely up to you. It's just you. I'm just a humble little old Lorax just getting you here. No one should ever feel pressured to do anything here.
15:46 or 4:45, is it?
Is your memory exhausted as to what time you were dispatched to that location?
I don't think there's a dispute. Why don't you just tell them the time they have there's no dispute.
No.
Were you on the scene approximately 10 to 4 that day?
I'm sorry?
Did you arrive at 33 Beamuth Road at approximately 10 to 4 that day?
We did, about 3 minutes after our initial dispatch time.
And approximately how long after you arrived at 33 Beamuth Road did you depart that area?
I'm sorry.
Approximately how long after you arrived at the Eapen home did you leave?
We left the scene for Children's Hospital approximately, again, I don't have my run report, so I'd say whatever it says on there, I think 7 minutes or so.
15:56.
Yes,
And arrival at Children's Hospital, 16:07, 4:07 p.m.
that sounds correct, yes.
Upon arrival at the Eapen home at 33 Beamuth Road, what did you do, Mr. McNiff?
Upon our arrival there, we unloaded all of our equipment necessary for the situation that we were updated as of hand in regards to a child with some difficulty in breathing. We took the equipment out of our vehicle, went in the home to find the baby with 2 of our Newton police officers who were updating us as we came through the doorway. We quickly assessed the child, determined a need to move the child to our ambulance for his difficulty in breathing, and from there we transported to Children's.
Can you indicate the observations you made during your primary survey of Matthew Apin?
In my primary survey of Matthew, I found him on the floor, on his back, with some obvious respiratory distress. He was noted to be somewhat pale and somewhat cyanotic, which is blue in color. His pupils were noted to be unequal and not reacting to any movement with light. His extremities were also noted to be somewhat cool. And again, it is at that time we initiated the movement to our vehicle to initiate care.
And whether or not there were any external signs of trauma that were apparent to you during your primary survey?
I didn't note any obvious trauma, nothing that would.
During your secondary survey, whether or not you noticed posturing by the baby?
I did note that the baby was posturing again. That was noted in the house as
What
well.
is posturing?
What does it mean? Or
Yeah.
posturing is indicative of a head injury.
So, like, I don't know if any of you have seen any horrible videos of people getting like punched in the head, or people getting in fights and they fall back and they crack their head on the ground. They sort of literally do like a playing the piano thing. The arms go out and the fingers clench up. That's what posturing is. Like it's just a thing. It's anytime you see anybody hit the dirt and just kind of do like this, that is the sign of a massive and very serious head wound. And that's what this child was doing.
What is it? So
It's-
clearly not.
Okay, the posturing is usually,
Oh, never mind. He's going to explain it right now. I'd beat you to it, buddy.
there are two types. The posturing we noted with Matthew, his hands were down at his side, somewhat fixed outward. His legs were rotated in and his head was arched back.
What did these signs indicate to you at that time?
They indicated to
Okay,
me
so
at
it
that
wasn't
time
the
that
piano player.
Matthew had some sort of cerebral injury.
What did you do next?
We assumed ventilations for Matthew due to his poor respiratory. His respiratory status was poor, so we assumed ventilations for him at that time, as well as initiated transport to the hospital and attempted to gain IV access in order to further secure his airway.
How did you assume respiration with regard to Matthew?
We assumed his respirations with a pediatric ambu bag, which is a bag valve mask, which enables us to overdrive respirations and assist in providing a full breath.
Whether or not you attempted to intubate Matthew through his throat area?
Did I? I'm sorry.
Did you attempt to intubate Matthew through his mouth and throat area?
We did make an attempt to orally, through his mouth, intubate Matthew.
And how was that done?
That was done with a laryngoscope blade. We attempted to intubate Matthew, but at that time, Matthew still had what is known as a gag reflex and would not accept the device into his oral airway, so it was withheld.
And what is a laryngoscope?
A laryngoscope is a metal blade that flips down into an L shape, which has a light on the end of
And
the,
it was,
actually on the end of the blade, which enables us to sweep the tongue out of our line of view and perform a direct a direct view of his vocal cords and his tracheal opening. So we are then able to pass an endotracheal tube into his airway to have a secure airway.
I was like, this guy is very, very well spoken. 26 years old. He's giving very, very good explanations of things. He's not making it complicated. He's not making it too simple. I studied forward like they did in the Karen Reed trial. This guy is very good with his explanations. Very accurate, very precise, and he keeps it simple so the jury can understand. I like this guy. This is a good witness.
Prior to leaving the Eapen home with Matthew, did you have occasion to have any conversation with the defendant?
A very limited conversation, yes.
Do you recall?
Why does the dude need a radio while he's on the stand? Because he's on duty. That's why he's wearing his uniform. It would be interesting to wonder what would happen if he would get a call whilst he was on the stand. Sorry, peace out. Got to run. Bye.
Recall what the extent of that conversation was?
At the time of my conversation, she was the defendant.
The question is, do you recall what the conversation was?
Yes.
And what was that conversation?
It was in regards to what had happened prior to her calling 911.
And what did she say to you, if you recall?
She had said that the baby had been somewhat fussy. She had difficulty in feeding the child, and that's really the extent that I can recall.
And what was happening at the time that you had this conversation with her?
We were on our way moving the child, or the child actually at this time was being moved to the vehicle by my partner and the EMTs. She was on the phone speaking to someone.
After you got back to your emergency vehicle, can you describe what you did with Matthew Weepen as you left the area?
When I came out to the vehicle, we again is when we assumed his ventilations. We initiated further care for the transport to Children's Hospital, setting up the IV bags and situating ourselves and Matthew for a transport to the hospital. And I had asked a fellow officer to return to the home to obtain more information and notify us while we were en route to Children's, so we did not, delay transport.
Was that Officer Braceland?
That was.
And did you later have a conversation with Officer Braceland?
I did.
Whether or not you did CPR on Matthew?
I did not.
Whether or not you did any chest compression on Matthew?
I did not.
Now, on the way to Children's Hospital, while you were working on Matthew, did you have a headset on?
I did.
And that allows you to speak with a medical consultant?
It does.
And who was that medical consultant on this evening?
Dr. William O'Callahan.
And whether or not, based on your conversation with Officer O'Callahan, you administered any, Dr. O'Callahan, whether or not during your conversation with Dr. O'Callahan, you responded by giving the defendant, the Matthew, anything?
My conversation with Dr. O'Callahan, again, he is the physician that I work under. I consult with him in regards to treatments of any patient that I come in contact with that I feel is in need of advanced life support techniques. In this case, I discussed with Dr. O'Callahan the use of Valium in order to sedate Matthew in order for us to attempt to secure an airway via endotracheal tube intubation.
And whether you were ever able to get an IV line in Matthew on the way to the hospital?
We did not have a successful IV line upon our run.
We'll take what's called a 5-minute in-court break. Anybody who wants to.
All right, take a little bit of a break, which they don't take because Court TV has chopped them all out.
Mr. McNiff, at what point in the evening did you write your chalk ambulance AMR?
All right, before they resume, we've got some things to take care of here. we definitely have things. People. Where are we at here? We got as far as Boosh, I believe. Coke Fairy says, "Oh, what is Jeff jinking? I must have missed him talking about that." No, I didn't talk about it. I was just doing it. This is just a little cocktail I whipped up. What is it? It's vodka, simple syrup, lime juice, and ginger beer. But the ice sounds delicious in the crystal. So that's what it is. I don't know what the name of it is. It's just with some muddled. I have some muddled blueberries in it. So muddled blueberries, vodka, simple syrup, lime juice, and ginger beer. Delish. But more importantly, I think my cigar went out. Yep, crap. I forgot to pay attention to the cigar. So that's what I'm drinking. Nothing big deal. Been there, done that. Says $10 for Liz's transgressions. Liz hasn't. Well, yeah. It's not Easter, but it's still the season of forgiveness. Liz is forgiven. But no, it's. There was power outages one day. There was other stuff going on one day. It was a whole thing. Thank you, been there, done that. Appreciate that. That puts us down the road to doggos. And Tanny Simmons says, graciously and humbly accept this, Lorax. I'll know if you don't. Tanny, you know I do. Tanny, you know I definitely graciously and humbly accept this because I am the most humble person in the entire world. There is no one more humble than me. I am simply just the pinnacle of humbleness. Thanks. L Flocking Lou, member for 1 month, says much love. Always. Oh, thank you so much. That makes me flocking happy to see. Thank you for your support for 1 month. And Island with the $2, but the doggos will miss us. No want sad doggos. Nobody wants to sad doggos. You can probably hear the S dog, the dog that starts with an S. I can't say her name in English or Korean anymore. Chewing on the bone here next to me. Yoda's out like a damn light. L Flocking Lou. What year was this case? 1997. Right down there in the banner, it will give you all the details, the year and the parties and all that other stuff. 1997 was when this case was being heard. Thank you very much. And with the $50 wink, you get a foghorn. Oh, we can't not get the doggo cam. Well, we very well can not get it, but Winks, you put us halfway there by your very old self. Thank you so much for that, which according to my lawyer math says we're about $5 away. It says we're about $5 away from that doggo cam. Well, never mind, because Shelby Fogg just dropped to $5. There we go. Boom. Shelby Fogg. I'm in less of a spirit now and can get out of it most of the time after next Friday. Woo! There you go. We are there, but not to be outdone. We have where's it's not showing up. Brummy Nan of 2. You're over here. Brummy Nan of 2. What's up? All the way over there in the UK. Gifted 1 Legal Vices membership, and that went to Rage Hunting. Rage Hunting got the gifted membership from Brummy Nan of 2. Give Brummy Nan a super special thanks. Thank you so much for that. Ladies and germs, what that little old thing right there does is puts us so far down the road that we've actually achieved our goal. People, we are on day 75 of the emotional support potato pig dog cam, but due to all of your super awesomeness, we have now just crushed that goal for the 75th day in a row, which means we are now officially today, as we talk, in day 76 of the emotional support potato pig dog cam, keeping the streak alive. We have but 24 more days to go, and we hit triple digits. Thank you so much, as always, for keeping this dang streak alive. That is so, so appreciated. Each and every one of you that contribute. And those of you that are just here, I'm just glad you're all here watching this with me. Thank you so much. We got that point. So we are to that point in the day where we have no choice but to issue for the 76th day in a row the command to release the hose. And there is the sleeping one. There is Yoda asleep to the world. And there is the strawberry butt. We got a big old plump strawberry butt there. We'll focus on the big old plump strawberry butt. Thick. Strawberry be thick. She's thick today. the thick berry. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for getting us here for the 25th day in a row. For the 76th day in a row. That's what I meant to say. That is so awesome. Thank you, guys. I'll set up some sort of meaningless goal here, and you can all have at it if you want. But thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you. You all deserve a foghorn for just being here. Gotcha, bitch. That was not a foghorn. That is a foghorn. Sorry. All right. But as long as we're paused here, we're paused just shy of the 1 hour mark. So we will use this for our 1 hour griftathon. It's not really a griftathon. I just grift for likes and subs. So because we are getting close again to 85,500. We're just a few short of that. Where are we sitting on the subs right now? Sitting right here, and bear with me, nobody run away. We're going to get back to this in about 1 minute. Currently, we are sitting at 84,500. We are currently sitting at 84,476 subscribers. We're just 24 away from 84,500. So if any of you haven't subscribed, we got 366 people watching across the universe, 260 right here on YouTube. If any of you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, either just reach down there and smack that subscribe button, or come on over to YouTube and hit that button. Let's get us up to 84,500 ASAP. And as always, I'm so grateful for you. Just hit that like button. We got 191 likes, 255 people here on YouTube, and 191 likes. And take our like and subscribe poll. Strawberry has Strawberry has left the room, not the building, just the room. So over here on One-Eyed Yoda. We have our like and subscribe poll here, which is just designed to do nothing other than remind you to hit the like and subscribe button. Do we need a Christmas Eve, Christmas morning with the law rack? So far, 83% of you say yes, and only 17% of you say no. So it's looking like we might have to squeeze something in for a few hours just to say hi. And don't forget, the 20th, Friday the 20th of December, will be a very moddy Christmas where you can meet our mods. Shelby, that button gets you the most. My favorite button. We'll see. They're in the exact same position. Like we have the foghorn button, but then if I move one screen over, it's the gotcha, bitch. And I've got some of my favorite buttons are in that button position. So they're only one screen apart. So sometimes I forget to scroll back a screen. Apologies. All right, everybody. That is it. Just remember, do the YouTubey things. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do your thing. Next week, I promise we'll have a bingo card to go with this. And I hope I won't break that promise by forgetting until after we start again, like I did this time around. Nicola Maxwell explaining the pronunciation of her name to Bifrons. It's Nicola, like Tesla. Nick. Hola. That's like, hello, Nick. Hi, Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. So that's just think of her as Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. Hi, Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody. Anyway, let's just make me shut up and we'll get on with this. Back to the trial, folks. Thank you so much for everything. Deeply appreciated. I'm just like wonder who this judge is. Whose picture is this back here on the back wall? I'm sure it's haunted. It looks haunted. If not, it should be.
Report.
The report was written a short time after we arrived at the hospital, probably within 10 minutes of arriving at the hospital, 10:15.
I have nothing further, Mr. McNiff. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's it? What? Nothing further for this witness? 12 minutes and 19 seconds of testimony from this witness? So it looks like cross-examination is going to be 50 minutes long. Well, cross-examination plus redirect, plus if there's any recross. That is surprisingly short for the amount of time. Because remember, like cross-examination sort of has to be limited in scope to the things that were covered during the direct examination. So this might be a little mini funging coming up here. We might get a little mini fung. And it looks like Andrew Good is gonna. Come on, Barry. You got to cross-examine. You got to cross-examine somebody. We're here for you, Barry Sheck. Andrew Good is a great lawyer, though. And what you're going to see, if you didn't see us last week, what you're going to see here is, you kind of saw a little bit with the previous witness, but the prosecutor, he's just sort of monotone and he just kind of goes on and he makes his emphasis with volume, but it's still kind of monotone when you get into it. This guy is animated. This guy knows how to perform for the jury. And so you'll see the difference in their presentation style, the way they ask the questions, the emotions and whatnot. So let's proceed with the cross-examination of our paramedic by Mr. Andrew Good for the defense.
Good afternoon, Mr. McNiff.
Good afternoon. I heard you.
Oh, good afternoon. Silence. I said good afternoon. Silence. Oops. Help, we've all gone deaf.
Mr. McNiff,
Tell us, Rick Ocasek.
I believe you said that you received certification as an EMT in 1991. Is that correct?
1991, yes,
And that's a certification you received from the state, is it?
that is correct.
And you take an examination in order to receive the certification.
That is correct.
And after you did that, sir, did you go to work in Newton right away?
No, I did not.
When did you begin working in the Newton area?
1992, 93, in that time frame.
And did you work continuously from 92, 93 until 97 in Newton?
Not continually, no.
Okay. Could you tell us in total time then, the amount of time that you had worked in this capacity, either as a paramedic or as an EMT in Newton, sir?
The type of service that our company provides, being a private ambulance company, we have certain trucks that are dedicated to the city of Newton. If those trucks are busy on a call, we have backup trucks, which will come in and cover the city. Throughout my career at Chalk Ambulance, known now as American Medical Response, I have worked on both systems, being either the backup truck to the city or on the initial dedicated truck to the city. Up until my present promotion to field supervisor, I have worked in the city as a paramedic
Yesterday
dedicated
or last week or whenever it was.
for about a year and a half, 2 years. Prior to that, I worked there as an EMT on the rescue, which was also dedicated to the city. But there are some lapses of time where I spent working in different municipal contracts for which American Medical Response is responsible for.
So have you worked for a period of years in Newton?
That's correct.
Okay. And I believe you testified that it took you about 3 minutes from the time you were dispatched till the time you arrived at the scene.
That is correct.
And that when you arrived at the scene, sir, I take it you arrived with another paramedic,
That is correct.
and I think you mentioned his name was,
Kevin Wall.
and you and he arrived in the same vehicle.
That is correct.
And when you did, sir, there was no one else in the vehicle, just a two-person team, is that right?
That is correct.
And is that vehicle referred to as Medic One?
That is correct.
And that's what you refer to as the dedicated Newton paramedic vehicle?
That is correct.
And when you arrived at the scene, you mentioned that I take it that you drove up to the front of the house
I wasn't driving the vehicle, but we did arrive at the front of the house, yes.
and you took some equipment in the front door.
That is correct.
And
Always take your equipment through the front door. That's the best place for your equipment, the front door. The back door, not so much. Don't take the equipment through the back door. But I was just going to mention here before I so crudely interrupted myself with a crude joke. We do have the next little chat goal, which is literally meaningless, but whatever. In the next 42 minutes, if we get 20 super chats of any sort whatsoever, we'll just take an early shot. Normally the second tier is the 200 level. We'll just take an early shot because why not? Of my horrible samurai whiskey that we've got here. That's the second goal. We'll just you'll force me to do an early shot of that. Plus, when we actually get to the 200, we'll do another one. Whatever. It's just a dumb, silly thing to persuade you without grifting. So hit that goal. Are we gonna hit the goal, chat?
you found the child being attended to by police officers,
That is correct.
and you described the child. Was the child, as you put it, posturing at the time?
Yes.
That is, when you first saw him, he was posturing.
Prior to us leaving the home with the child, or prior to us moving the
No.
child, he was posturing.
Was he posturing when you first saw him, is my
When
question.
we first came in the door, there were collectively numerous things we noticed about the child, and posturing was one of them.
Okay. And again, would you please, if you could stand, may I ask the witness to stand, Your Honor? Please stand. And could you, if you would, please place your arms in the position.
He's
that the
drunk. Did you
child's
see him
arms
stumble?
were
He's drunk.
when he was postured.
Child's arms were down by his side.
Indicating your hands held by your side with your palms.
His palm sort of
turned
extended
around-
outwards.
Turned around and up, not.
So that would be the type of posturing that was explained earlier here in chat,
Well,
where the arms
arms were
turn
up.
in towards the core of the
Okay.
body
to my recollection.
rather than protrude out.
Just so we review this, your hands are about at the same level as your waist,
That is correct.
and your palms are pointed behind you.
Well, yeah, his arms were, like, his elbows were up in the air. His arms were not flaccid by his side on the ground. They were sort of in an awkward twisting position, just
The
an
palms are
abnormal.
pointed generally to the rear as opposed to being held.
That is correct.
You may resume the seat. Thank you. And is it true to say that there's a certain type of posturing? Is it a name for that?
There's posturing known as decerebrate and decorticate.
And which was this, sir?
That's exactly what our previous chatter told us. It's almost like, I can't remember who it was. They will use the gender neutral they. It's almost like they know what they were talking about. All right, so he's going to explain exactly what we already had a chatter explain to us.
Decerebrate.
Decerebrate.
Decerebrate, yes. Sorry.
And now, sir, I think you testified that that's signified to you some sort of cerebral injury.
Collectively, with the findings of unequal pupils in the presentation of posturing, yes.
And a cerebral injury is a brain injury.
Yes.
And now, sir, you mentioned during
I
your
like the way
direct
Terry
testimony
thinks.
that your concern was to maintain a secure airway.
That is correct.
That's your phrase, secure airway?
Well, we wanted to maintain.
No, I'm just asking, was that your phrase, sir?
Did I say secure airway?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that, and now, with respect to that, sir, you mentioned that there's a difference between a paramedic and an EMT.
That is correct.
And there are particular abilities or skills that a paramedic can has to secure an airway that an EMT lacks. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And that relates to the placement of certain devices, use of certain devices. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And if you brought some of those devices with you, sir,
They are on the way here, yes, from downstairs.
they're not in the courtroom at the moment.
Presently, no, they're coming from downstairs.
How long did it take to get them from downstairs? Where are they downstairs?
And speaking of devices, fun fact that has nothing to do with anything other than it's a salacious bit of news that I found particularly funny before starting the stream. Texas is forwarding a bill to limit dildo possession to 6 per person. But really, do you need 6? Needing 6 and being told you can't have more than 6 are different things. But apparently that's a new bill being introduced in Texas to limit dildo ownership to 6 per person. And they also are contemplating a bill to ban Walmart from selling sex toys. Again, it has nothing to do with this trial. It was just a wacky little bit of news I saw before I went on there.
In the vehicle, which is in the back parking lot, they are on their way back.
When-
A fellow colleague of mine went down to retrieve them
When did he go down to retrieve them?
during the 5-minute break.
I own none, but just because someone tells me I can't makes me want to own a dozen or two.
Could you check and see, please? Maybe you haven't
Oh my
brought
God.
customers.
I can proceed anyway, Your Honor. Come back. Thank you. Now, I take it that,
Dildo police, open up.
just to catch back up, you said that the skill and ability that a paramedic like yourself has is in part
There is
the
a question.
placement or
Does
use
a
of these
baldo
devices.
count as a dildo?
Yes.
Isn't that right? And these devices include devices to make the airway secure,
Correct.
and also you also have the ability to administer intravenous, to make an intravenous line. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And a paramedic is not certified to do that either. Isn't that right?
A paramedic is not certified?
I'm sorry, an EMT, an emergency.
He's like, yeah,
medical
bitch, I can
technician, is
stick
not
people with
certified to
needles.
place an IV.
That is
right?
correct.
And you're also certified to administer certain medications on orders of a physician,
That is correct.
and to do that through the IV if it's placed.
That is correct.
And none of that can be done by an EMT.
That is correct.
And those two skills are included within what is known in your line of work as advanced life support. Is that true?
That is correct.
Now,
Nobody wants
With
their
respect to
grandfather to
this,
have any of them.
secure airway.
Sorry.
You understood at the time, sir, you already testified that the child appeared to you to be suffering from a cerebral or brain injury. Is that true?
At the time, he showed symptoms of that, yes.
And is it true that you had some information that Matthew Eapen may have vomited at some earlier time, at the time that you were treating him?
I don't
pick
know
your nose,
at
sir.
what time I received that information. I mean, I can't say I don't know about it throughout the course of that day that it was brought up, but I don't exactly remember when I came into that information.
Were you aware from your training and education that you described that one thing that can happen to brain injured or cerebral injured persons is that they may vomit? Isn't that
Yes,
true?
it can happen.
And
Yes, it was Denise Sells, apparently either a nurse or an EMT or a paramedic. She knows whereof she speaks.
And it's also true, is it not, that if and I take it you detected, I think you said on direct examination, that Matthew was having some respiratory distress when you first saw him,
Yes,
and you administered this breathing assistance by mask
that is correct.
once you took him out to the truck.
That is correct.
Now, would you estimate how long time from the time you first saw him till how much time elapsed from the time you first saw him to the time that you arrived back at the truck with the child?
Probably within a minute.
I'm glad it's your face, folks.
And at that time, sir, or rather during that time, you were concerned to one of the things your training tells you is to be concerned to, as you put it, secure this airway. Isn't that true?
I don't understand the question.
Well, my question, sir, is
I didn't either.
did you consider it from your training to be part of your responsibility to assure that the airway would remain secure?
It is part of my training to, in some cases, decide whether we should take over ventilatory efforts for some of our patients. And in regards to Matthew, that concern was voiced that we indeed should assist in his ventilatory efforts.
And in assisting him in ventilating, you're referring to literally pushing air into his respiratory system.
In regards to Matthew, he had a ventilatory effort of his own. We were assisting to regulate it. We were trying to get a regular pattern of breathing.
If someone's breathing, they
And
normally
part of
don't
that was
intubate you,
to
I believe,
raise
because
the
you're breathing on
breathing
your
rate.
own.
Is that right?
Not necessarily
controlled it
raise
with
it,
the
but
bag.
to, again, we wanted to make it a regular breathing rate.
Well, isn't it true that, well, did you detect how many breaths per minute he was taking unassisted, sir?
Again, I'm not looking at my run report currently. I don't know off the top of my head what I have written there. It's probably that it was poor.
And
It may have been shallow, it may have been slow, it may have been fast.
And part of what you did you not, once you got him out to the truck, was to squeeze this bag to change the rate and make it regular. Isn't that right?
Trust me,
Would
you
raise
squeeze
it
my
and
bag, my
make it
breath
regular?
is changing.
Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And as you're doing that, you had this mask on over his nose and mouth.
Correct.
And by the way, is there such a thing as a certification in pediatric advanced life support?
There is.
And as of February 4 of this year, sir, were you certified in pediatric advanced life support?
I believe I was.
You believe you were?
Well, I'd have to look at my certifications, but I
Well,
would
get
say-
time out. Will H says this guy does not look 53. He's 53 now. When this trial was on, he was 26. This trial was in 1997. He was born in 1971. So he was 26 years old at this time. He's 53 now.
say I was.
Okay. And now, sir, while using this bag mask device, it's part of your duty as a paramedic to make certain that the airway did not become obstructed. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And that nothing go down
Yes,
the
Swamp Bear, the
airway,
Massachusetts people are the
that might
Scottish of
interfere
America.
with, the
Just kidding,
patient's
Scottish
respiration. Isn't that true?
Well, our job is to ensure a patent airway,
And a
an
patent
open airway.
A patent airway means an unobstructed one.
Correct.
And there are there not, well, one concern about a way that the airway could become obstructed or impeded would be if the child were to vomit again.
That would be a concern, yes.
And that would be because the vomit, if it came up through his esophagus, could then go down his airway. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And isn't it true that you've heard, you used a stethoscope at some point to listen to his chest?
I believe it was my partner who listened to it, but yes, it was used.
And it was noted that you heard wrongfully. Isn't that right?
Again, yes, my partner was the one who auscultated or actually listened to the lung sounds, but yes, that in fact is what.
And you noted wrongfully
That is correct in my report.
based on his report about what he was hearing.
That is correct.
And wrongfully are sounds, rough sounds that you hear in the child's lungs. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
There are small.
Okay, I'm going to make a small minor gripe here. This is my thing. I'm a big courtroom decorum guy. And maybe it's just because of my life here in Korea. In Korea, the judges are super strict on what you wear and what you do in the courtroom. You know, lawyers are required suits and ties. Well, I mean, that's just kind of standard. But you know, I mean, you just don't cross your legs in court, is what I'm saying. And that's my gripe here with this guy. It's a terribly minor gripe, but it did just kind of make me go, ugh. This is a formal legal proceeding, and I think you should act like it. And he just watching him burdensomely cross his leg in that cramped space just kind of made me wince a little bit. So maybe I'm nitpicking, but that's just my thing. But while we're stopped here, we got Brummy Nan of 9. Brummy Nan of 9. Rummy Nano 2, we got that out of the way. Shelby Fogg, that button gets you the most. My favorite button. Yeah, we explained that. And Read by Nature says start you off. Yeah, we've only got one. So we got 26 minutes to get 20 more to force me to do an early shot. Hey, you started us off. Whether there's any takers, whether anybody wants me to do an extra, it's just stupid goal. Just do what you will with it. It's just there for fun, for giggles. But crossing your legs in court is not giggles. I just don't like it. I don't know why I paused to mention that. It just kind of hits me the wrong way. It's there's a woman whose life is literally on the line here, and you're just crossing your legs in court like it's like you're just sitting around the coffee break room. And I don't like it.
Tubes or passageways within the lungs.
That is correct.
And if those have fluid in them, then that makes this rough sound. Right?
That is correct.
And as far as you know, that could well have been vomit.
It could have been anything with a fluid consistency, yes.
And so it was part of your concern as a paramedic to prevent, if you could, any incident while a child was in your care on the way to the hospital to prevent vomit from going down his airway.
That is correct.
And are there devices that you use for that purpose?
Several.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't know whether you want to do this before the break or after. I can go get the devices now or
Right here.
if I may.
Nickel, I did not get a message from Kay. Where would I be looking for a message from Kay? I've got no messages anywhere. All right, here's the devices. And apparently Texas limits you to only 6 of these devices.
Yes, so the witness can get them, Your Honor.
These aren't necessarily
No, I just have them shown.
special category for show and tell.
Now, if you could take a moment, Mr. McNiff, and if you would.
Jeff is being very pedantic.
retrieve
There's just
what
thing
you
about
referred
courtroom
to as
decorum that I
OPA
like.
From the bags and boxes you got there, and the scope and the blade that was referred to on direct,
I have nothing from Kay on Twitter.
and the tube.
One at a time.
You got it.
Oh, wait a minute. A new one just came in. Nope. Okay, look, just as a quick disclaimer for anybody that sends me anything on Twitter, you have to make sure you do not send it to Legal Vices. Do not send it to Legal Vices on Twitter. Send it to the Legal Vices on Twitter. Okay, did you send it to Legal Vices or did you send it to the Legal Vices? If you send it to Legal Vices, it went somewhere completely different. Legal Vices on Twitter is a BBW escort and video service in Las Vegas. It's a BBW escort and porn video service. So if you send it to the Legal Vices, that's who got it. I mean, I would get it. If you send it to if you send it to the Legal Vices, I get it. If you send it to Legal Vices, they get it. So that's just a little disclaimer there. So make sure you send it to anything on Twitter to the Legal Vices. Otherwise, a BBW escort and porn video service in Las Vegas gets it. This is his tackle box. He's going to show us his lure collection. He's looking for the right lure for the weather conditions.
If you,
I mean, I can open these. I just
put them
don't
all
know what's going
aside. You don't need to take them out at the moment. If you just put them aside, collect them.
He's
All right.
chosen a clear
On
spinner,
these-
apparently.
Well, in regards to the OPA, again, measurements for insertion are done patient by patient, so I can't obviously give you the exact size that was used.
For once, a corn site will be spammed, lol.
OPA again stands for what?
Oral, pharyngeal.
Thanks, I wish I was drunk. No, that seriously looks exactly like the tackle box I used to have. Same color and everything back when I lived in the States as a young lad and was fishing all the time. Jill M says your tackle box is bigger. Lol. Now we've got it. All right. What the? Thanks. I'm not showing that on stream, but thanks, KLF. Didn't need to see that. This actually looks a lot like one of my pipe cases. Like when I go on trips, it looks like one of my pipe cases. Ooh, 26 and married.
One you would have used on this.
Sorry,
So I
ladies.
understand you may not know exactly which one, but
Okay. What's going on here?
OPA
Showing the judge the whatever it is he's showing.
now, if you would, sir, you mentioned that the OPA stands for oral pharyngeal airway. Is that right?
That is correct.
And could you hold that up?
No, that was the Timu
Or
ad.
may that be circulated to the jury?
That is a. Never mind. I'm not going to say it. Damn it! This is a serious case about a murdered 9-month-old baby. I need to stop making G-spot jokes. Shame on me.
All right, what next?
Now,
Just
Having,
locked into place.
if you could again, just tell the jury, please, sir, what is it that that's for?
That airway that the jury is now viewing is used amongst the basic life support and advanced life support EMTs and paramedics. It is inserted, as you can notice by the shape, it assists in keeping the tongue from blocking air passage into the trachea.
So,
No paralegal is there is not a TikTok person moaning in the court. That is just that's just the pig dog. That's strawberry snoring.
so if we visualize the patient's mouth, the tongue in the normal position does not obstruct the airway. It's
Correct.
forward in the mouth, and it doesn't impede the airway.
Yes,
Now, it's true when you refer to securing the airway that you would use this device to prevent the tongue from in any way going backward and covering the top of the airway.
in some cases, yes, it is used.
And it's true, is it not, that you made attempts to use it upon Matthew Eapen on February 4, 1997? Is it
That
not?
is correct.
And was it a device approximately that size that's now circulating to the jury?
Probably a little smaller, but within that aspect of shape, yes.
Okay. And that's made of plastic?
Yes, I would assume.
And
Yeah, I don't make these. I just use them.
All right, let's get on to the next.
the next device,
It's really. I think the defense counsel is asking a lot of not so important questions. Nothing the prosecution has said so far leads us any further down the path towards proving that Woodward committed this murder. But by the same token, nothing the defense is asking in these cross-examination questions lead us further away from her doing it. He's just asking about equipment. I don't know the size and shape of the object that moves the tongue out of the way. I don't know why that's important. I mean, it's technically relevant, I guess, but I don't know why it's important. I don't know why we're getting bogged down in these details. I would like him to speed this up a bit so he doesn't lose the jury, because I think the jury is just kind of going, all right, we're getting the ins and outs of the paramedic's tackle box.
If you could, sir, is the scope and blade. Could you hold that up so the jury can see it? And if we can just describe that for the record, it's a kind of an L.
We'll put a label on it, so it'll be
Well,
part of the record, but just show the jury how it's used.
I wasn't proposing to leave it here, Your Honor. I think they need it. So
You need it?
I think that the ambulance people need that.
The equipment that was brought here today, Your
We'll
Honor.
take photos.
Yes, Island, we have trimmed. I trimmed the beard down a little bit because I got a lot of important appointments this week. Had a lot of important business appointments, so we trimmed up the beard a little bit.
So if you could just hold that up again. Now is that a pediatric scope?
It is.
And what's the name of that?
This is the laryngoscope handle, the laryngoscope blade. The blade presently on here is a Miller 0.
And what is the scope handle made out of? That one in your hand? Made out of steel?
He's like, I don't make this
I would
shit.
imagine so. I just use the equipment they provide for me. I'm not really sure what it's made from.
Steel or chromium.
And
See, why does this matter? Why does it matter if it's steel? Why does it matter if it's chrome plated? Why does it matter if it's titanium? These types of questions don't necessarily matter. And I think the jury is asking the same questions. So I think we're running the risk of, seriously at this point, running the risk of not alienating the jury, but just letting them phase it out. They're just phasing out. They're just kind of going somewhere else. So when you ask an important question, they're not going to be paying attention.
the blade itself is also metal?
It looks that way to me.
Look at me questioning the cross-examination techniques of one of the leading defense lawyers in America. Yeah, you better listen to me, buddy. I know what I'm talking about.
Again, I don't know.
And the blade has this a small light bulb that operates on the end.
That is correct.
And
Well, before we talk about anything going down anybody's throat, I'm told the jurors' lunch is here.
No, Judge. Hey, no.
Phrasing.
Judge cannot say before we talk about anything going down anyone's throat.
Hey, phrasing.
Oh, so he's gonna send them off to lunch so that they can jam stuff down their throats. Judge, no, you can't say that, Judge.
So we'll pause. We'll mark the laryngoscope handle and blade as one exhibit D for identification. And at the appropriate time, we'll take a photograph of all of these items. Do not discuss your testimony, please, Mr. McNiff, with anybody except Mr. Leone or Mr. Good. And we'll resume at 1:30.
All right.
All rise for the lunch break. Jury, proceed to jam stuff down your throat. Got a gag on my toothbrush. Yeah, me too. I have a really, really shallow gag reflex, like a surprisingly shallow gag reflex. All right, they're back from lunch, and we've got microphone cords duct taped to the floor. I don't know if you've noticed those before. I keep noticing them, but hey, we got the court reporter here with her beehive hairdo, kind of the remnant from the late 80s. She's hanging on to it. She's not letting it go, but she's got those gray stockings on. Rower. All right. Enough of this. Let's go.
when we
I'm listening. Sorry.
Okay.
Excuse me.
when we took a break, I believe you were showing the jury the scope with the blade on it. Is that a pediatric scope?
It is a pediatric handle and a pediatric blade, yes.
Okay. And are the blades manufactured in sizes?
There are two different manufacturers with sizes according to each manufacturer, yes.
But there's a range of sizes of blades.
That is correct.
And is it correct to say that you used either a size 0 or a size 1 in this instance?
That is correct.
And
He already said it was a
That
0.
up again, the scope and the blade. Is that, what size blade is that?
That is a 0.
He already said that. That's the
And
third
one
time
would
you've
be
asked.
slightly larger?
For this style of Miller, the 1 would be larger, yes.
And what you're holding up is approximately what you used to treat Matthew Eaton.
I don't recall exactly which blade I had in my hand, but yes, it'd be similar to this.
And you can put that down now. And what you do is it true that you position yourself behind, let me see, the child is lying down on his back, is that right?
That is correct.
And you didn't do this on the floor in the house, is that right?
That is correct.
First, the child was removed to the truck.
Yes.
And now, before you did that, you observed this cerebral posture.
Yes.
And now, you position yourself, I started to say, with the child on his back. And are you positioning yourself sort of above the child's head, if that makes sense?
Are we now speaking of the time that I was in the ambulance?
Yes.
I was at the head of the child, yes.
And that means the child is lying before you with his feet extended away from you and his head nearest you.
That is correct.
And you assume that position. Are you on your knees?
At the time, I probably was on my knees, the child being elevated on the stretcher.
And when the child is in this, the child was still in this decerebrate position at the time?
Was he still posturing?
Yes. Once you start, you don't stop, do you?
No. I would say yes, the child was still posturing. At this time, I was more concentrated on the airway as opposed
Okay.
to.
And it's true, is it not, that you've described the arm positioning in the decerebrate posturing. Is it also true that the child's head, when posturing, would be back, that is, with the chin pulled up?
Yes, that is correct.
And now, again, we're now behind the child's head with his feet extended in front of us. And are you going to insert this? Attempt to insert this first? This let me see if I can pronounce it correctly. Oral pharyngeal airway, the OPA.
At that time, correct.
That's the first thing you did.
That is correct.
And again, the purpose of this is to assure a secure airway. Correct?
That is correct.
And you understood, did you not, from your training, that this posturing indicated that this child was in
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a meme copium sighting. Meme copium, if you for all of your needs, for all of your dark side of the internet and intrigue streams, you want to make sure you get on over to meme copium. Meme copium, welcome to chat. That kid in the pinstripe suit is the defendant. She's a 19-year-old accused of shaking a 9-month-old child to death. But the defense is those injuries were suffered long before she was accused of this. So it's an open question. This is a trial from 1997. It gave rise to the coining of the, I don't know if it was the coining of the term or the popularization of the term shaken baby syndrome. This is the trial.
fair to say, critical condition,
In my training, I would say yes, he was in critical condition.
and that the cerebral posturing indicates that he had a global head injury. That is, that he had a brain injury above that involved the brain above the brainstem level at that point.
In our training, posturing coincides with a head injury.
And you understood that at that time that the child was in a life-threatening situation at that moment. Isn't that true?
To me, the child seemed like he was in a life-threatening situation, yes.
And obviously his situation, he could not, it would do him no good to have anything further happen to him, including compromising his airway.
I would say compromise to anyone's airway wouldn't help them.
Right. And you understood in particular that.
Good point there, sir. See, this is why the defense needs to get to the point and sit down, because he just got owned hard there. Yeah, I think obstructing anyone's airway is a bad thing for that particular person. So yeah, and we've still got another 20 minutes, 18 minutes to go with this guy. And well, that's going to include any redirect there is, but I can't see a need to redirect on anything. He's not asked anything particularly damaging to the prosecution's case. Just what's in your tackle box? What's this piece of equipment called? What's it made out of? He's losing whatever momentum he's built up.
Any interference with this patent airway, given his already critical condition, would certainly be a very, very bad situation for him. Isn't that true?
Interference with his airway, I would say. Well, I'm not sure I exactly understand the question.
If, for example, his tongue were to go back over and cover up his airway so that it no longer was functioning, that would have been a very dangerous situation. Made the bad situation go from very bad to even worse.
Potentially it could, yes.
And it's also true that were he to vomit and aspirate vomit, and in the process compromise his airway, that also would have been a further complication of his already dangerous condition. Isn't that true?
Yes, vomit could have.
And it's true then that you considered it to be urgent to prevent either the tongue from falling back over the top of the airway. It's true? That's what you were there to do, isn't it?
Was that my means for securing his airway?
No. Wasn't it urgent that you accomplish a means to assure that his tongue would not obstruct his airway?
The OPA is used in conjunction with preventing his tongue to stop from going to the back of his airway.
But in terms of your own sense of urgency about getting that done, you felt a considerable sense of urgency to get that done, did you not?
I did feel an urgency to secure his airway, yes.
And that included inserting this OPA if you could. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And it also included intubating him.
That
Correct?
is correct.
Now, sir, prior to Matthew Eapen, sir, how many infants under the age had you intubated before?
Under the age of what?
Under the age of 1?
I would have to research my records to come up with an accurate number. Less than 10.
Okay, so now this is sort of kind of a relevant question, but it's buried in all of this other shit he's been asking. So the jury's been sitting here for 30 minutes going, okay, this isn't an important question. This is not 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 an important question. And so the next question that comes up, they might automatically be thinking this is not an important question. Whereas this is actually a fairly important question. What is his experience in intubating a child under 1? Did he do it correctly? Did he do something wrong? Does he have the proper training and qualification to intubate an infant? But he's done less than 10, but this may be lost on the jury. And they might not be in a position to go, perhaps he did something wrong. They're just going to be going, okay, another unimportant question. That's the problem I have with not staying focused and keeping it short and sweet as possible.
And could it be as little as 1?
It could be less than 10. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
I'm asking you, could it be as little as 1?
Well, I think I do
Very simple. Fewer than 10, is it that right?
fewer than 10.
More than one?
I've attempted more than one, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I do like that this is probably the most interactive judge that we've covered on any trial we've done in the last 2.5 years on this little old channel of mine. So I do like this. I like the judges getting involved. The judges paying attention. The judge is asking questions to sort of streamline it and speed it up.
Now, the jury has seen this OPA. Do you assume that position that we already described over the baby's head in order to attempt to insert the...
Oh, wow. I got to pause here real quick. KY says, I'm late to the show, but didn't they come out this year and find out that a lot of these shaken baby cases were scientifically debunked? Without spoiling anything in the outcome, there was one of the expert witnesses, one of the experts that was called to testify that did say if they knew then what they know now, they would have testified differently in the case. So that is an interesting thing. I mean, you can't expect witnesses to testify based on things that are only going to be known 30 years in the future, 27 years in the future. So, I mean, there are some interesting things about when we look back and we see, okay, this is what we testified to, but it's not a sound testimony today. So that's one thing to bear in mind, that at least one of the expert witnesses has come forward and said that if they testified today in the same case, they would have testified differently.
OPA. Do you assume that position that is over the baby's head with the feet extending out before you to attempt to insert
The baby
OPA?
was in that, we were in that position collectively to insert the OPA.
And am I correct in understanding that you, with your hands, are the person who attempted to put the OPA in?
That would have been me, yes.
And when you did so, sir, you do that with your own fingers.
That is correct.
And the idea is to in effect, push that item down into the back of the mouth and into position. Isn't that true?
It is inserted and then rotated into position, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
All right, let's make it relevant, counselor. So far, I would ask one question on redirect. I would ask the paramedic on the witness stand, although you may have done less than 10 of these, I probably wouldn't say that part, but I would say, are you fully qualified to intubate a child less than 1 year old? Yes. Okay. No further questions. I think we're all caught up on where there's no way we're making this goal. Oh no, we didn't come anywhere near. We got 2 out of the 20 for the goal. No early shot for me. Apparently no second shot at all. So because there's not enough time. So no shot for me. Oh wow.
Mr. McNiff, I show you that book. Is that a book that you're familiar with?
It is.
Could you tell the court and jury what that book is?
It's Advanced Cardiac Life Support.
And that's the title of it?
That is correct.
And it's published by?
American Heart Association.
And is that the book that you study and master in order to pass the certification that you referred to earlier?
It's one of them, yes.
Okay.
Damn it, I just dumped a bunch of ash on me.
Now, and so you're familiar with the contents of this book, is something you've studied in detail?
I am.
And I'd ask you to look at page 2-5 in the book. There's an illustration there showing the scope inserted in the image's mouth.
That's correct.
Does that provide a fair and accurate representation of how the scope gets inserted?
It does.
You know, maybe we go to sidebar.
Sidebar time.
What do we need to do? Just use it. How are you going to use it? It's
Well,
very-
Mr. Leone has an objection.
The objections can come after you start to use it.
Didn't hear you, Judge.
Uh,
Apparently, he just waved off. He said, "Nah, objection, nah, whatever." The judge just kind of waves it off. Man, just go, just run with it. I don't care what the objection is, man.
So this image at page 2-5, that's approximately the position that Matthew Eapen's head would have been in with the scope.
Ooh, porcelain thunder. He's got the 90s David Sanborn spackled in place hair. Nice 1990s random 1 or 2 hit saxophone player reference there. Wow, porcelain thunder referencing relatively obscure 1990s saxophone players. I like the way you think, porcelain thunder. That was a good reference.
Is an illustration of when you place the scope in his mouth and into this the back of his mouth. That's position. That's what you would see.
If I were to, if I had done an exact intubation, if I had, fully inserted the laryngoscope into his oral passageway, yes, I would have had him in that position.
Okay. Now, did you put the scope in?
No, I did not.
You didn't put the blade in?
Never.
So that was just kind of an unnecessary line.
Put the OPA in, is that right?
Again, the ETT and the OPA attempts were refused due to a gag reflex. They were never actually inserted into the mouth or the airway. Any attempt I made, Matthew still, moved with his tongue, so we withdrew. We didn't want to.
He was still too conscious.
Further increase our
further
problems
intubate him.
at that time.
So you're saying that that you put the beginning with the OPA, place that you were able to get his mouth open, I take it. His mouth was open.
Yes, his airway was patent. His mouth was open.
Okay. And you took that OPA in your hand and plus your hand and the OPA, your tips of your fingers and this device into his mouth. Isn't that right?
I attempted to, yes.
And chin is up.
He was in what we consider the sniffing position, so
Sniffing position.
And sniffing position means that, to push his nose sort of up in the air
for us to place him in the sniffing position, yes, Matthew was already in that position.
from the posture.
I would imagine so. I don't.
So his chin is elevated and his head is back.
Well, he was just in a sniffing position.
And you opened his mouth and you attempted to place the OPA into the back of his mouth. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And were you able to get it past the rear of his mouth at all, sir?
No, I was not.
Did you push on it?
No, I did not.
You just pulled it back.
Again,
Yes.
this means he's breathing
And,
sufficiently on his own, so they just use
so,
the bag compressions
you
to
had this sense of
regulate.
urgency about securing the position of his tongue.
Well, my sense of urgency,
I'm just asking, is that true?
yes.
And now you were about to take Matthew to Children's Hospital. Is that right?
That is correct.
And is it true that before you left, there was some kind of communication that suggested that the trip would be to Newton Wellesley Hospital instead?
Not between myself and anyone. I think that because we are a city vehicle dedicated to Newton, it is sometimes understood that all our patients go to Newton Wellesley.
Okay. But in this instance, I think it's your call as the paramedic on the scene to decide where to go.
It's a call between my partner and myself, yes.
And you made the decision to go to Children's Hospital.
We did.
And it's correct to say that that's the route to Children's Hospital from Beamuth Road is a straight down Route 9 east.
That is correct.
No, you don't have to turn anywhere once you get on Route 9
That is correct.
until you get to Longwood Avenue.
That is correct.
You just go straight down, and there's one left turn once you get on Route 9, That's it.
That's correct.
And it's, the record shows that it took about 11 minutes.
That's correct.
And so you knew that it was going to be about 11 minutes.
I didn't know exactly how long it was going to take us to get there. That wasn't my
Well, you've done this-
motivation.
It's fair to say this is not your first trip to Children's Hospital from Newton,
No, it's not my first. No,
and it's not your first trip on an emergency basis.
no, it's not.
So you know that it's approximately a 10-minute ride under the best of circumstances.
Fair enough. Yes.
And you also understood, did you not, that if during the course of that ride, child's neck, or rather tongue, were to slide back over this airway, that he would be severely compromised in an already compromised position. Isn't that right?
If that happened, yes, it could further compromise him.
And it's your testimony that because of this gag reflex, you didn't, once that happened, you didn't try to push this in harder.
Because the child wouldn't accept it. No.
The
OPA.
Sorry?
This.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This refers to the
Yes,
OPA.
you didn't push the OPA in any harder.
The child wouldn't accept it. No, I did not.
And that it's true that you attempted to push it in more than once. Isn't that true?
Throughout the trip.
Where are you going with this,
the concentration
counselor?
I had
Come
on his
on,
airway.
man.
Yes, at different times I reevaluated to see if there had been any change in his airway status.
And so in the moving vehicle, you were attempting to push this in every now and then.
I attempted twice, I believe. Once before we left and once while en route to Children's.
And so while the vehicle is moving, you try to push this plastic item that the jury's seen, this OPA, back in.
Well, I wouldn't say I pushed it. It was, an attempt to see if it'd go into his mouth. It never passed the area, I guess, on an adult would say the teeth. I went to the side, it wouldn't take it. I didn't advance it any further and I left it alone.
And you attempted to put the scope in his mouth back before you left?
Before we left, we attempted to do a view of his visual, yes.
And you wanted to see down his windpipe, did you not?
Well, I wanted to see if I could get a view of his trachea, yes.
And it's true that you saw down his windpipe.
I wouldn't say I saw down his windpipe. I never actually did a direct view of any of his oral structures.
Okay. And it's your testimony now that you understood that there was a risk that he was going to vomit again?
We have that risk with every intubation, yes.
And that in fact, the intubation procedure is designed to protect against a child in Matthew's position vomiting and aspirating vomit, breathing it in.
It's one of the techniques to prevent it, yes.
Well, what it does it not, is put the tube in a position in the airway so that even if he vomits, there's no way the vomit's going to go down there. Isn't that right?
In his age group, yes.
And it's true that your main function, your main responsibility at that time with respect to this procedure is to protect against this vomit going down his throat, if that were to happen.
My main function was to provide ventilatory support for Matthew, in which case I was doing.
And you were doing that, but I understand. But my question is, you were also, wasn't it true that your responsibility was to put this tube in place so that if he vomited during that trip, that it wouldn't go down his airway?
It's an option I have in the back of the vehicle with somebody who is not in cardiac arrest to further secure their airway.
And your testimony is that you put the blade of the scope in his mouth to some degree.
Again, to his mouth, but he would never really accept it not past his lips.
And you didn't make any further effort to push this thing in further?
No, I did not.
Can I see if you will decide what it is?
Okay. The judge wants to see folks. Not sure what he's asking, but here we have a star lawyer 2 years out from the O.J. Simpson trial, Barry Sheck, and the defendant there, Louise Woodward, currently 19 years old here at the time of the trial.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Now, I think you mentioned on direct examination that you attempted to place an intravenous line. Is that correct?
I didn't attempt to place it. My partner did.
And did that occur in your presence, sir?
It did.
And that was also in the truck?
That is correct.
And that did not succeed either?
No, it did not. We did not.
And now, did your partner actually insert a needle into the anatomy of Matthew Eben?
In the intravenous attempt, yes, I would say he did, but I cannot speak for him.
Okay. Dude, you got to wrap this up, man.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, so we wrapped this up finally.
Thank you, you may.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The direct examination of this guy went 12 minutes. The cross-examination went nearly 52 minutes. And I don't think there was anything done that would advance this case to where it would draw an inference that maybe she didn't do this. I don't understand this cross-examination. One or two questions, maybe 5 or 10 minutes of clarification questions for how he did things. And there was one important question in this whole thing. And that was the question of how many children under the age of 1 have you tried to intubate? And but I think that the jury just blew through that. It's like, all right, I've been listening to a bunch of junk and a bunch of junk is happening. So this because the last 47 questions have been not that important. This one probably isn't either. And they just continue to phase out. But and it was this 52 minutes was so unimportant and so unhelpful to the defense. The prosecution had no redirect questions. Because I would ask the one redirect question. Although you've done, I wouldn't mention that you've done less than 10. I'd say, are you qualified to intubate children under the age of 1? Yes, no further questions. So nothing has changed in this. I don't understand why the defense did that. But what we've got here is we are now 2 hours and 4 minutes in. This should be shutdown time. This should be the time where we close the stream, but I still have this much of a cigar left. So we'll go to the end of this. We'll go to the end of this cigar because I don't want to waste the cigar. So we'll just go into the next witness until I run out of cigar. Then we'll run out of stream. Let's see. Do we have anything else to read here? Been there, done that. Asked Legal Vices, what are your thoughts on spreading your legs in court? Men need a certain level of spreading, but just don't go like full on man spreading. Just be just treat it with seriousness and respect. Just do the right amount of spreading. Irish I was drunk says my it's too small for my glasses to see. For once, a corn site will be spammed. Lol. Yes, we read that already. Thank you very much. We do have the question here. I'm thinking the defense was trying to shift the blame if the paramedics didn't do the procedure correctly. But again, that was it. But that was the implication of that question. That's what he was implying with the question. How many children under the age of 1 have you intubated? I think that was the purpose of the question, but it was buried in it was sandwiched between 45 minutes and then another 10 minutes or whatever of unnecessary questions, and it gets lost on the jury that way, I think. If he would have just come out and asked a few clarifications and then asked that question, it might have raised some questions in the jury's mind, but I don't think it did in this case. One, I don't think they were paying attention. Two, I don't think they were thinking about it in that way. And it's easily cleared up on redirect with a simple, do you have the proper qualifications to intubate someone less than 1? Yes. Okay. So yeah, I think that's what he was trying to do, but I think he was ineffective in doing that just because of the length of time it took him to get there and the way it was phrased. Legal vices could it be to give the jury a type of crash course in teaching some medical knowledge, which would produce thoughts about procedure and doubt? Again, yeah, but what is this made out of? What is this part of this thing called? Is the device, the OPA that moves the tongue out of the way, is it made of plastic? Those are all, that doesn't matter. That doesn't give us any medical knowledge. So I think both of you are correct, but it was so, in my never to be humble opinion, ineffectively presented. Meh. All right. Well, let's see who our next witness is, and we'll go for this.
We can, or we have a camera. We have.
I think we did. The equipment can go back there to do the next good.
Did you do it?
You know, if you call the next witness, so.
It's Dr. Kenneth Mandel from the Children's Hospital, Your Honor.
All right. Our next witness is who? Who is our next witness? Oh, do we get a Barry cross examination on the next guy? Cool. This is emergency pediatrician Dr. Kenneth Mandel, who treated Matthew. All right. So this is the emergency pediatrician. So I'm assuming they're doing this timeline wise. The first guy on the scene, the paramedics that show up. Now they're to the hospital. So now they're going to be doing the next person that interacted with the infant, with Matthew Eben. All right. Let me bring this on up and unmute. No closed captions for this guy either. Apologies to those of you with audio problems.
Could you tell us, please, your full name?
My name is Kenneth Mandel,
How do you spell your last name?
Mandl.
Judge, with the court's permission, may we use the microphone?
He looks like the annoying guy, the annoying guy in Deer Hunter, who I believe played Fredo in The Godfather as well. He kind of has those vibes. I'll be right back. Hang on. I'll leave you with him while he's testifying.
And your date of birth, please?
April 17th, 1964.
All right. Dr. Mandel being offered as a treating physician or an expert.
Treating physician
Very well.
with testimony in the area of emergency pediatrics.
Any dispute as to his qualifications in that area?
I don't believe so.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen, you recall what I said about expert witnesses earlier. All right, you may proceed right to the heart of things, then, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Mandel, where do you presently work?
Children's Hospital.
And what is your license and certification in which areas?
I'm licensed in medicine. I'm certified in pediatrics and with special qualification in emergency pediatrics.
And what type of trauma center is Children's Hospital?
Children's Hospital is a level 1 trauma center.
And what does that mean?
That means that we are set up to receive trauma of all sorts and to manage it.
How long have you been working in the ER as a doctor?
Well, I began my residency at Children's in '89. I started a fellowship in 1992. I've had ER experience all along, but been exclusively in the ER since 1992.
And could you generally tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your experience with accidental trauma and abuse as you've seen in the emergency rooms that you've worked in?
My experience is that of a physician working in a high-volume emergency department. We have 50,000 visits a year. As one of about 10 staff, I see about 5,000 of them.
Wow.
and about 22% are trauma. So I see somewhere over 1,000 cases of trauma a year.
Wow. That's like 3 a day.
What is
Jeez.
pediatrics?
What is pediatrics? Pediatrics is the specialty of medicine that deals with illnesses and injuries in children.
Imagine seeing
On
like
February 4th of 1997,
child
did you
trauma
have
cases
occasion
a
to
day?
treat Matthew Eapen?
I did.
And do you know whether the treatment and diagnosis of Matthew Eapen at Children's Hospital was reduced to a record?
Yes, it was.
You are subject to subsequent redaction and decision before the records go to the jury. I would ask that the Children's Hospital records of Matthew Eapen be marked as an exhibit.
Any objection?
With the caveat of that,
Yes, any objection?
no objection.
Very well, it will be, where are we? Exhibit 14. Ladies and gentlemen, redaction means that parts will be cut out that are of no concern to you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, very nice.
I hate winter because I can't keep the windows open and ventilate this place out. I'm gonna have to bring in my air purifier into this room. Smoke myself out.
Approximately 10 past 4 p.m. on February 4th of 1997. In what capacity were you working that day, Dr. Mandel?
I was the staff physician in the emergency department, the attending physician.
And what is your role and responsibility in that capacity?
As attending physician in the emergency department, I'm responsible for all cases that come in that day, to oversee their treatment, to supervise other treating physicians, and to ultimately take responsibility for the cases of the day.
Do you recall when Matthew Eapen was brought into the emergency room that day?
I do recall.
And what happened when Matthew Eapen was first brought in with regard to Matthew Eapen and his condition?
Matthew Eapen was brought in by paramedics and placed on a stretcher in the trauma room of our emergency department, our main resuscitation room. There, we initially assessed him according to our routine protocol.
There's no ear licking
And what
going on.
information was obtained?
Strawberry's
strike
licking
that.
Yoda's forehead.
What did you do with regard to Matthew Eapen during the course of your primary survey of Matthew Eapen?
Well, when he first arrived, he was receiving assisted ventilation by paramedics and was not responsive. So we embarked on our routine protocol for assessing an unresponsive patient who is in respiratory arrest. And the first thing we do is to assess the airway. In fact, we go through.
Excuse me, it would be a bit more helpful if instead of saying what you usually.
Judge, we can't hear you.
Tell us what you did with respect to this patient.
Yes. Well, we proceeded in our general fashion, and specifically to this patient, we assessed his airway, which in our protocol is the letter A. We'd go A, B, C, D, E. We assessed his airway to make sure that it was patent, to make sure that he was able to pass air through the airway, and to see whether the airway needed further protection to enable him to continue breathing. From the point of view of his mental status and being in a coma at the time, we made an early decision that he was going to require an intubation for the airway. Then we went to assess breathing. He was not breathing at all.
If I could just interrupt you 1 second, did you in fact intubate Matthew at that time?
Not just at that time. There were other medical conditions that had to be handled first.
Could you continue and describe those?
The other conditions?
And just to interrupt him before he talks about the other conditions, we got about 15 minutes left to go. So now is your time to get any super chats you want to get in. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
What you did next with regard to Matthew?
Support the
during primary
channel if you're
survey
so
assessment?
inclined.
Yes.
If not,
We then
continue on.
assessed his breathing. He was not breathing at all. The paramedics had told us that he had poor respiratory effort at the home. At this point in time, he was not breathing at all. We therefore continued assisted ventilation with a bag and a mask that was hooked up to 100% oxygen.
Wow. Okay.
We
100%
then
oxygen.
assessed C circulation. Circulation is to assess his blood pressure and the perfusion of blood through his tissues. That appeared to be adequate at the time. We then assessed D, disability. and we noted that he was in a coma, that he was posturing, and therefore that assessment impacts back on airway. It meant we were going to need to intubate him. We then went on to assess exposure. He had come into us with no clothes on, and so he was fully exposed. That's
Did
our
not watch
primary
Joe's
survey.
stream. Didn't know he took it
Based
down. Don't
on
know why he
the
did.
medical findings that you made during the primary survey, what did the primary survey indicate to you with regard to the condition of Matthew Eapen at that time?
Matthew Eapen was in a coma and in critical condition and in full respiratory arrest.
Okay.
Based on the medical findings that you made during the course of the primary survey, what did you decide to do next?
Well, since we decided we would need to protect his airway through the process of intubation, placing a plastic tube through the vocal cords, we wanted to do this under optimal conditions, and as is standard, we placed an intravenous line. In fact, we placed 2 intravenous lines. That was our
Wow.
first main intervention, besides giving oxygen, was to have 3 people working on this critical procedure of placing intravenous lines. 2 were placed in the extremities. At that point, once...
Doctor, could you
yes.
describe where those were placed and how and what the purpose of that placement was?
Yes, there 2 were placed. One, at least I believe, was in a hand. The other was either in an arm or a leg. And a third IV was attempted to be placed in the femoral area. It's routine for us in pediatric resuscitation to need to spend quite a bit of initial effort and have several people working on this fairly difficult task, which we achieved in a fairly short time. The femoral line there were a few needle sticks in that area of the groin, but that line was not actually placed successfully. But that was okay. We stopped as soon as we had the peripheral line, since any of them suited our purposes. The purposes of the line is to be able to give intravenous fluids or medications or blood.
Now, with regard to the secondary survey that you did of Matthew Eapen, could you please describe the secondary survey and what you did?
Yes, the secondary survey occurs after we've secured the initial vitals and ABCs. Just before the secondary survey, we did place the tube through the cords to protect the airway, then proceeded to the secondary survey. In the secondary survey, we noted his general appearance. We looked for signs of other conditions that might be affecting him. We saw no external skin findings. We noted that his pupils were enlarged and what we call fixed and dilated. In other words, the black part of the eye, the pupil, was very large and not moving in response to light.
Yeah, that's bad.
That he was posturing and that his arms were what that means is that his arms were extended abnormally.
And what does posturing of that nature indicate to you as an emergency room physician?
That indicates some sort of a very abnormal brain state at that time. Some injury has occurred to the brain. That could be something from a medical problem, such as a drug overdose. It could be something from not getting enough oxygen. It could be from a head injury.
And with regard to the fixed and dilated nature of the pupils, what did that indicate to you as an emergency room physician at that time?
That also indicates a severely abnormal brain status in most cases. Their 2 main causes would be either a pharmacological process where the drugs are acting directly on the pupils to make them large, or some kind of a general brain dysfunction state with therefore poorly responsive nervous system.
During the course of your secondary survey, did you make further observations of Matthew Eapen's eyes?
Yes. A little bit later in the secondary survey, I did a more detailed examination of his eyes and noted that there were retinal hemorrhages bilaterally.
And what did the presence of retinal hemorrhages, bilateral retinal hemorrhages, indicate to you as an emergency room physician under these circumstances?
Well, it's a distinctly abnormal finding, and the presence of these, to me, indicated that there had been severe head trauma, most likely.
Based on the presence of fixed and dilated pupils, posturing, and retinal hemorrhaging together in Matthew Weepin, what did that indicate to you?
The fixed and dilated pupils with the retinal hemorrhaging and the posturing was, again, a very consistent picture with a diagnosis of a severe brain injury, probably traumatic.
Okay, so I mean that's kind of a given now from what people have been testifying to, that he did have this traumatic brain injury. But again, the prosecution isn't moving the bar towards showing that she was responsible for this injury. So they've still got their work cut out for us. We're still off in the realms of laying down and establishing the basic facts. So I'm assuming the prosecution is going to move on eventually to showing that she did it, because this could have happened a few days before. It could have happened that day. The prosecution's got their work cut out for them.
And as the attending physician in the ER at that time, after you made observations of the retinal hemorrhaging to Matthew Weepin, what did you do?
Once we had made that determination, we ensured that we were taking the proper measures to prevent increased intracranial pressure, which primarily for us involves delivering the oxygen with the bag valve mask at a certain rate of breaths. We had already ordered a CAT scan, not specifically for trauma, but rather as part of the general workup of the comatose patient. We had already done everything up to the CAT scan. It became clear, we were waiting for the CAT scan when I did the examination of the retina. At that point, it became quite clear that we did need the CAT scan emergently to rule out bleeds in the head.
And after viewing the retinal hemorrhaging to Matthew, did you have occasion to contact the ophthalmology department?
Yes, since the retinal hemorrhages are would be a very key finding in further diagnostic workup. And since ophthalmologists are the specialists at looking at retinas, I was, in fact, it was before 5 o'clock, and I was able to reach the ophthalmologist on call, who was kind enough to come down just right away with his equipment.
Would that have been Dr. Giulio Diamante?
I do believe it was, yeah.
And did Dr. Diamante also look into Matthew's eyes after you had finished?
Yes, he took a few minutes and conducted a thorough examination.
At some point, did you see
He's a
Debbie
mouth
and
breather.
Sonny and the parents of Matthew Weepin?
Yes, sometime before the ophthalmologist had arrived, before I had seen the retinal hemorrhages, but after the very initial primary survey, I met Mr. Epen. And then sometime a bit later, Mrs. Epen came as well.
After making observations of Dr. Diamante, looking into Matthew's eyes, did you make any other observations of Matthew Weepin and his mother at that time?
After looking in the eyes, did I make any observations about Matthew and his mother?
Yes.
Denise says, would you please move the doggo mic as my dog? There is no dog mic. This is the dog mic right here. That's just how loud they're snoring. They're just snoring loud enough for this microphone to pick it up. Hey, Denise sells dog. Chill, man. Chill.
Well, after the ophthalmologist?
Yes.
Well, at that time,
I'll mute my mic.
both parents were concerned. Since they're both physicians, I was communicating with them quite regularly over the hour. When we discovered the retinal hemorrhages and had the finding confirmed by an ophthalmologist, Mrs. Epen requested that she confirm the findings as well.
And how did Giulio Diamante look into Matthew's eyes?
Well, he used a scope that was much more elaborate than my handheld scope, a full headset with a lens. And in this particular case, since the pupils were fixed and dilated, as I had mentioned before, very large, we had a very clear view. So I observed part of his exam, at which time he was looking with his equipment and the lens into the eyes.
And what observations did you make of Deborah Eapen after that time with regard to that headset?
After we had confirmed these findings, and since she was an ophthalmologist, I felt certainly very obligated to be extremely clear with her as to exactly what we were finding. And since it is such a serious finding in most cases, she put the headset on and took the lens and looked through the eyes as well.
Based on your findings of fixed and dilated pupils, posturing, and retinal hemorrhaging in Matthew while he presented to you in the ER, based on those findings, what was your diagnosis at that time, sir?
Well, at that time, our diagnosis was severe head injury.
And what was your prognosis at that time as the attending ER physician?
Well, injury that severe to produce retinal hemorrhages tends to have a very...
The question is, what was your prognosis?
Yes, my prognosis for Matthew with severe retinal hemorrhages was poor.
At some point, did Dr. Madsen appear in the room where Matthew's CAT scans were being taken and observed?
Well,
Yes,
Ronan
I was
Varheit,
not
in that
the
situation,
CAT scan room
their
at
soul would
time.
they would be
One
they
of
would be
my
tormented
colleagues
by
went
all
up
of their
while I
sins,
remained
and their
with the other
soul would
patients.
belong to Ghost Rider.
Okay.
And at some point, was Matthew brought into surgery?
The report that I received was that Matthew went to surgery.
I have nothing further of Dr. Mandel at this time. I'd ask that his curriculum vitae, his resume, be marked as an exhibit, please.
Yes.
Wow, so we're going to do this again. Oh, no. That was 18 minutes of direct examination, which means that we could potentially have another hour of cross-examination. We're not going to get it. We're not going to do that today, but we'll see how it goes. I've got about 5 more minutes left on this cigar, but we do have a Venmo coming in. It's loading. Load up that Venmo. Load up that Venmo. Venmo is loading. Why is my Wi-Fi so slow? $10 from S&B. S&B. Those are the initials. S&B. The $10. If you want to out yourself here as the contributor of the $10, please just let me know here in chat. S&B. Thank you. So S&B those are the initials. Thank you very much. For the 10. Thank you so much for the tenner. That is awesome. Super awesome. All right. Thank you so much for that. I won't do the full doxing, but we'll get there. Thank you so much, S&B, for the $10.
Curriculum vitae's resume. You'll have a chance to look at it later. That'll be exhibit 15, please.
So they're entering his CV into evidence now.
All right. Check your name.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Good afternoon, Dr. Mandel.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Sheck will be handling the cross-examination of the doctor. We'll have to watch a little bit of this, but Barry Sheck will. Okay, now that it's Barry Sheck questioning, I know why it's potentially an hour of Barry Sheck questioning, which should be awesome. He does not waste words, so this has the potential to be very awesome. There could be a short cross-examination and a very long redirect. I don't know. Let's just let's see, but let's bask in the glory that is Barry Sheck. He of the mind like a steel trap. Barry is one of my heroes, one of my idols, one of my favorite lawyers, which would be Clarence Darrow, F. Lee Bailey, Jerry Spence, and Barry Sheck. Those are my top 4 hero lawyers.
Dr. Mandel, when you examined Matthew Eapen on the afternoon of February 4th, you saw no bruises on his arms.
That is correct.
You saw no bruises on his shoulders.
That is correct.
All right, we are already off to the races with some very, very pointed questions. Now, remember, the prosecution, as they said in the opening statements, it was brought up that the prosecution's theory is that she took this baby and shook him vigorously for a full minute like this. And that was about 5 seconds. Allegedly, she did it for an entire minute. So he's saying you didn't see any bruises on the shoulders, on the arms, or anything that would parenthetically tend to show that this baby was shaken by the arms vigorously for more than a minute.
You saw no bruises on his ribs or his chest.
Correct.
You saw no bruises on his abdomen or stomach area.
Correct.
You saw no bruises on his neck.
Correct.
You saw no bruises on his back.
Did not.
You saw no bruises on his leg.
Bernice, the baby was 9
Either
months.
Neither leg.
9 months old.
In fact, you saw no bruises on Matthew Eapen's body, no marks anywhere on his body that would indicate that anyone had grabbed Matthew Eapen and shaken him violently back and forth in the manner I'm showing you now for about a minute.
On the ground. Looks to the ground. The word. What?
Okay, there was an objection somehow. We're not hearing the objection, of course.
Objection's overruled, right? You
There-
wanna answer the question?
There were no bruises.
My question is,
Barry
He
won.
said he saw no bruises at all.
well, but I asked him a different question. I asked him,
That answer subsumed the question as well.
I can tell Your Honor
Go
wants me
ahead,
to move on.
carry.
Now let's talk about
Audio?
Matthew Eapen's head. It was important for you to examine his head as closely as possible. True?
That is true.
And when you looked at his head and examined it, you neither felt nor saw any swelling. True?
True.
You neither saw nor felt any swelling in this area I'm pointing to now, which we would agree is the right.
Okay, now we've got the problem of Court TV's mics being apparently voice activated. So this isn't on any particular person. I think it's just on Court TV having a voice activated mic at this point.
Occipital area, correct?
Correct.
That's the back of the head. This bone is the occipital bone, yes?
Yes.
So when we say swelling, when people fall, sometimes they get bumps or what we call goose eggs, correct?
That can happen.
And that wasn't there.
No.
No, it wasn't, or
No, it was not there.
You saw no breaking of the skin on the back of the head or anywhere on Matthew Eapen's head. True?
That is true.
You saw no abrasions or scratches anywhere on Matthew Eapen's head, either the back, right occipital area, or anywhere else.
No.
In other words, yes.
Abrasions and scratches would have been hard to see. He had
now the question is, did you
see any?
did not see them.
And you're about to indicate he had a full head of hair?
Yeah.
But you were physically feeling and examining, looking for these signs,
That's correct.
because that was important.
Yes.
And you wanted to be very careful about those observations because you were dealing with a child that you felt had suffered a trauma to the head, or could have.
Yes.
Dr. Mandel, did you see anything at all in your examination of Matthew Eaton's head? And I guess that this is about 4:10 p.m. on February 4th?
I believe it came in at about 4:10, 4:11 or so.
Did you see anything at that time and place about his head or feel anything there that in any way suggested to you that Matthew Eaton had been taken and have his head slammed down onto a hard surface with the force equivalent to dropping a child from a height of 15 feet onto?
Okay, to piece together what Barry Sheck is saying, he's asking him, you didn't see anything that would indicate that he had been shaken. You didn't see anything that would indicate that the back of his head was slammed onto a hard surface with a force equivalent, as they mentioned in opening statements, of being dropped from a height of 15 feet, which is about 3.5 meters, I guess, for you meter folks. And his answer is going to be no.
Concrete.
There were no physical findings to specifically indicate that. No.
Thank you. Now, with respect to
Yes.
this whole issue of airways and oxygen, as you've indicated, I believe, you saw or you learned that Matthew Eaton had been in what's known as decerebrate posture.
He was posturing.
And that indicated to you right away that this was a severe injury to the brain.
At least this brain was in a severely abnormal state at that time.
When we say abnormal state, what this meant to you is that there was swelling in the brain.
Swelling would be one cause.
One thing you'd be worried about, swelling in the brain.
Absolutely.
And because that swelling in the brain from some cause is what may cause the brain to expand and put pressure down on what's known as the brainstem.
That's true.
And the brainstem is that part of the brain that controls functions like breathing.
Yes.
What's known as the reticular activating system.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, a system that keeps us conscious and awake.
Yes.
Oh, this pains me. We can't hear this. Court TV, you need to step up your 1997 game.
And so as soon as you saw that decerebrate posturing, I think as you've told us, you felt it was critical, very important, to get that tube down to assure a patent airway.
Well, when you have a coma as deep as Maddie's was, then it is standard teaching that since the tongue may slip back and block the airway, or since the patient doesn't have a gag reflex, may vomit and aspirate, that the airway should be secured through the process of intubation with a plastic airway.
Now, I'd like to, and you were talking here about.
All right. Well, I am done with my cigar. We'll go to the 30-minute mark. So we'll go for like 4 more minutes. Dang, I wish we could hear all of this. We can't hear any of
That,
it.
I believe you said on direct examination that when you first saw him, when the emergency people first brought him in, that he was not responsive.
So he's not responsive when he
That's
was
true.
brought in.
And that he literally was not breathing at all.
Correct.
Now, Dr. Mandel, there's something known as anoxia, yes?
Yes, there is.
And anoxia is what is known as a
I think he's asking about hypoxia, the lack of oxygen. That I think that's what he's asking about, but I can't tell.
severe deprivation of oxygen.
Yep.
Yes.
No oxygen getting to the brain, for
Yes.
example. And if a baby or anyone experiences a severe anoxic event, and oxygen isn't getting to that brain, that is an extremely dangerous situation.
Very dangerous.
And one of the things that a severe anoxic event can cause is something that's, and I guess we'll have to get used to these terms, something known as hypoxia.
Yes.
And let's try to define these terms with some precision. Hypoxia refers to a situation where there is a normal blood flow through tissues such as, let's use the brain as an example, normal blood flow through the vein, but the blood does not contain an adequate amount of oxygen, right?
Yeah, I believe hypoxia would also include if there was no blood flow to the brain.
Oh, well,
Or,
trying to
or,
be as-
or reduced. Right.
let me move to the next thing, see if we can define. So hypoxia, strictly speaking, is when there's blood going through but not enough oxygen in the blood. Fair enough? I'm going to get to ischemia in a minute.
Okay, sure.
All right? So that's hypoxia. It's strictly defined. Would you like a medical dictionary?
I agree. You know, we use these terms a little bit differently sometimes. I think that's probably an adequate definition.
Well, I think I'll get to the way you use the terms in a second. I'm just trying to be precise with you. Now, ischemia is a condition where there's an insufficient amount of blood flowing to the tissues at all. True?
That's true.
Okay. Now, I take it this is the way sometimes the terms are used when there is a severe anoxic event where there's a cutoff deprivation of oxygen. One might suffer in the brain something known as hypoxic ischemic injury.
Correct.
And that would, those terms together mean that there is both probably not enough blood flowing into the tissue, that's ischemia, and the blood that is flowing in doesn't have enough oxygen, that's hypoxia. Fair enough?
Yes.
And when someone is suffering from a hypoxic ischemic situation in the brain, that is going to cause really bad brain swelling. True enough?
That can be true, yes.
And in fact, when you saw Matthew Eapen in that emergency room with the cerebral prostrate and not breathing at all, and only having been ventilated with a mask upon arrival, you feared that this baby was suffering from bad hypoxic ischemic injury to the brain.
That was certainly one of the diagnoses that we were strongly considering.
And you mentioned that head trauma can cause swelling of the brain. That is, if somebody's head is slammed against a flat surface with the equivalent force of dropping his head 15 feet directly onto concrete. Just the trauma alone sometimes can cause brain swelling, true?
That's true.
However, if a child has suffered a severe anoxic event and also is suffering from hypoxic ischemic injury, that too can cause very, very severe brain swelling.
That is true.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up right here, the 30 minutes into this witness testimony. And we can see that the other guy, Andrew Good, the lawyer for the defense, was asking a lot of unnecessary, irrelevant, kind of boring questions that may have taken the jury away from it. But I think Barry Sheck has just now pulled the jury in, and they're focused on this. I know I am. Of course, part of it's me trying to hear what he's saying, but the jury can hear him fine. And that's one thing we kind of always have to keep in mind with the audio from the court. The purpose of the audio is not for us. We're just an afterthought. The primary concern is, can the judge hear them? Can the witness hear them? And can the jury hear them? Other than that, we just get whatever's left. So Barry Sheck is pulling him right in. And I think right now, Barry Sheck has moved the goalpost away from the defendant. Because that was their big argument. He was shaken. The baby was shaken to death. suffered head trauma from shaken baby syndrome. It's like there's no bruises, there's no bruises anywhere on his body, there's no lacerations to the head, there's nothing to indicate that there was head trauma equivalent to dropping a child directly on their head 15 feet onto concrete. I think it's definitely raising some questions with me. So I assume the jury is thinking this kind of the same thing. We'll just have to see how this plays out. But right now, Barry Sheck is doing a fantastic job. And next Thursday, we're going to pick up here again from the 30-minute mark, and we will see how many more witnesses we can get through. So let me just kind of get rid of this particular window here. We no longer need Snort TV. Thank you very much, Court TV. And there's Strawberry and Yoda, good night from them. I will just pull myself up here right now to talk to you folks for a little bit. We don't have any more super chats to read, I can see. Yep, we are good. We have caught up to everything. Right, so far, I would have to say this is in this case, of course, we're only on like day 2, I believe, of the trial. I think the defense has the upper hand right now. The prosecution hasn't moved the goalpost towards her being the one that's responsible for doing this, whereas Barry Sheck has moved the goalpost away from her because there's no signs of any sort of shaken baby. There's no signs of physical trauma. We're going to have to see how this plays out. We've got a long ways to go in this trial. This is only day 2. But you know, we'll see what your thoughts are as we progress through this case a little bit further. We'll be back next Thursday for part 3. And currently I am fighting a copyright claim on part 1 from the Associated Press UK, who claimed that they own the copyright to about 45 seconds of the video, which clearly they just used a 45-second clip in some news article or some news story they did, and that somehow triggered their thing. So screw you, Associated Press UK. You do not own the copyright to this trial. This is a public court feed from Court TV. They own the copyright, and they don't seem to give a crap about me streaming the trial. So Associated Press UK, you suck. Withdraw your copyright claim and give me my monetization back. It's a full monetization block from the Associated Press UK. Creeps. All right, that's just my little bitch for the day. I just had to bitch about that for a minute. Right. All right, everybody. We currently have 174 people here and 261 likes. If you haven't hit that like button yet, now is your time to do it, because we are running out of time. And if you have not hit the subscribe button, I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. We're moving our way towards 84,500 subscribers. We're where are we sitting here? We are now 23. We are 23 subscribers away from hitting 84,500. So if there's got to be 23 of you that haven't subscribed. If there are 23 of you if there's even one of you that hasn't subscribed, just reach down there and smash that subscribe button. And I caution you, all of you who think you may still be subscribed to the channel, just double check to make sure you still are, because YouTube likes to rip subscriptions unilaterally away from people. And we have our like and subscribe here. Now you got about 30 seconds left to vote in the like and subscribe poll, assuming you've already liked and made sure you're subscribed. This is just dealing with Christmas, because I know a lot of people have Christmas alone. We're coming up on Christmas, and I have to do a lot of Christmas cooking. Oh, we might do a Christmas cooking stream. Because every year the cigar lounge that one of my dear best friends, maybe we should talk about, if you just want to watch the trial, feel free to take off now. But we're going to talk a little bit about Christmas, a little bit about what's coming up in the next little while. My best friend of 16 years, he passed away in June of 2020 of a heart attack. He started the cigar lounge here in town. Mike was a great friend. But every year we had a tradition. Every year we had a tradition where we would get together. And of course, the only tradition anyone should ever have on Christmas Eve is to watch Die Hard. we would watch Die Hard together. So that's something I do every Christmas Eve is watch. I watch Die Hard. We used to watch it together and drink whiskey and whatnot together. But the whiskey of choice was a whiskey from High West Distillery that High West used to make called Yippee-Ki-Yay, which of course is the only whiskey you should drink while watching Die Hard. But they've discontinued manufacturing Yippee-Ki-Yay at High West. So there are no more bottles being sold. I have about this much left in one bottle. And my friend Mike, I gave him a bottle, and we were planning on drinking that bottle of whiskey during our annual Die Hard watching for Christmas of 2020. But Mike passed, and his wife, his dear, sweet, wonderful wife, she gave me the bottle of Yippee-Ki-Yay that I had gifted to Mike. So now what I do since 2020 is I watch Die Hard while I have one shot of the remaining bottle of Yippee-Ki-Yay, but the full bottle I have that will forever, ever, and ever, world without end, remain unopened. But now, in the spirit of having Mike with me, I watch Die Hard with the full bottle of Yippee-Ki-Yay from High West sitting next to me to represent Mike's presence in my watching pleasure. So that's what I'm going to be doing Christmas Eve. But if I do the Christmas Eve stream here, it'll be Christmas morning. And every Christmas at the Cigar Lounge, we have a Christmas dinner. I'm in charge of making the honey baked ham, cornbread, and pickles for that. So I will be making some pickles. We might have to do a cooking stream for doing the pickles, the cornbread, and the honey baked ham. But we will also, because you guys have said you want it, 83% of you said yes, we should do a Christmas Eve, Christmas morning with the law racks. So I'll try to arrange something, and we can do that. It'll be Christmas morning for me, and I'll have to run occasionally to make sure that the ham is being properly attended to and whatnot. But we'll work out something, because I know there's a lot of people that are alone, a little bit lonely. They just want to hang around, or while they're getting ready for Christmas, they want to have something on in the background. I would be pleased and happy to do that. Wow, they're selling a bottle of Yippee-Ki-Yay for $400 a bottle now. Yikes. It's usually about when they were still manufacturing, it was about a $90 bottle. So yeah, it's gone up. But anyway, so that will be Christmas. We'll do a Christmas Eve US, Christmas morning Europe and Asia stream for a little bit before I have to go actually to the club for the Christmas dinner. Friday the 20th, Friday morning US time I lied. Friday evening US time on the 20th will be the very moddy Christmas, where we'll have our mods on. We'll have them here in the studio if they want to participate, so you can talk to them if they want. They can turn their cameras on so you can see who they are and hear them and talk to them. Ask them whatever you want. Let's see. Those are the Christmas related things, and there's been a lot of people, saying that we should mod Paralegal Liz. We'll have to see how Paralegal Liz. We'll have to judge the participation level between now and then. We'll put her on probation. She's a prospective mod. So we'll put her there and see what happens between now and then. Neurodivergent one over on Rumble says, "Hey Jeff, if you stop by Viva's Rumble stream, I'll drop the link to your channel in chat." Is he doing something now or what? I don't know, but I don't know where. I don't know if Viva's live now or whatnot. I wish I can't redirect people to Viva, because I can't redirect people to Rumble. But anywho, probationary Liz. But if he's streaming now, I can't, because it's 1 a.m. and I'm going to go to sleep. But if he is streaming, and if anybody wants to go over to watch Viva Fry, make sure you head on over to Rumble. Let's see. So tomorrow will be Friday. Friday. Normally, like I said, we do the Friday evening stream on Fridays, which is my Saturday morning, because I like to go out on Friday evening and hang out with friends. But I can't. I've got to go on a trip this weekend. So it'll be regular time, same time tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern, where we will be looking at the newest. We thought we were done. We thought we would never have to jump into the suitcase of love ever again and talk about Sarah Boone. But Sarah Boone's lawyer filed a motion for a new trial, which was soundly, I mean, it wasn't even soundly, it was just denied, sit down, during the sentencing. Well, look at what his grounds for asking for a new trial were. And also, Sarah Boone has dropped another 28-page handwritten letter to the judge. And we will be looking at that letter. This is the Sarah Booniest letter that Sarah Boone ever Sarah Booned. This is an unhinged letter. This is completely, she's pissed that she was found guilty. So stay tuned tomorrow for Sarah Boone's motion for a new hearing and her 28-page handwritten letters to why everybody is wrong and you just don't understand, and she wants justice because she is the true victim. It's a letter. So that's what we'll be doing on Friday. Then I'm going to head off to Seoul for a couple of days, and then on Monday we will once again descend into the swamps of Levy County, where we'll be looking, Levy County, Florida, where we'll be looking at the federal lawsuit filed by Jeremy Hales against Lynette Preston and now a bunch of other people. We're going to go through all of the filings in that. And for those of you who go, oh God, not a Jeremy Hales stream, I don't give a shit about the daily drama between the What the Hales group and the Lynette Preston group. Couldn't care less about the drama, the interpersonal drama. I want to look at the filings. I want to look at the lawsuit. I want to look at everything that's being filed in court related to that. We're going to break it down. We're going to look at the weak points of the claims and the weak points of the defense, and stay as clear as possible from the interpersonal drama between everybody. So yes, I'm going to be heading up to Seoul, taking the Soul train. That's what we're going to be doing. So join me Monday for some What the Hales, Jeremy Hales versus Lynette Preston federal lawsuit. We're going to look at everything that's been filed to date and a few documents that have not been filed. We'll be looking at the deposition of Jeremy Hales, which was quite interesting. If you've been following Megan Fox and Tug, that umbrella guy, they did a reading of a good chunk of the deposition. I'll be looking at some of the points of that and some of the things that they said were going to be filed, that the defense said were going to be filed that wasn't filed. There's a lot to get into that has been filed without wading into the interpersonal drama, which I just don't care about. This is not a drama channel, not a drama stream, and I don't care about the drama. I want to look at the filings. The filings are pretty darn cool from both sides. So that's what we're going to be doing starting Monday. And then a week from Monday, we will be jumping once again into Maritime Monday, where we'll be looking at Shackleton's expedition. We're going to be listening to an audio book of a book called South. And for those of you who don't know, Ernest Shackleton, he went on a voyage in 1914 to Antarctica. He wanted to be the first person to walk across or to transect Antarctica from east to west, walk across Antarctica east to west. It did not go according to plan, and he and his crew were essentially trapped on the ice for 18 months. And their tale of survival is incredible. We've already done, I think, 3 streams on Shackleton's expedition. It's just frankly one of my most favorite adventure stories that is way cooler than anything you could write in fiction. And it's true. So South is the story of Shackleton's expedition told by Ernest Shackleton. It's in a book. It's in a book that Ernest Shackleton, I'm assuming he ghost wrote it, but it's his story of what happened on his voyage. So we'll be listening to that audiobook to begin with. And while we're doing the audiobook, I'm going to be building Lego. Let's see. Gotta stretch over here for a second. Hang on. The first thing we'll do, which will take a relatively short amount of time, is we'll be building Shackleton's lifeboat with Ernest Shackleton up there and his photographer down here. This is Shackleton's lifeboat, which plays a huge role in the adventure. But once we get Oops. Once we get that out of the way, for the next several Maritime Mondays, we will be building the Lego version of the ship that Ernest Shackleton used on his adventure, the Endurance. We'll be building the Lego version of the Endurance on Maritime Monday. While listening to, we'll start off with the audiobook of South, written by Ernest Shackleton. Then we'll begin watching videos and other presentations regarding his adventures in Antarctica and the amazing things. They were trapped on this ice for approximately 18 months and did some seriously heroic shit and lost a grand total of 0 people from his expedition. Every single one of the 27 people on that expedition survived. And his leadership, their will to survive, is one of the greatest stories of survival you will ever hear in your life. So beginning a week from this coming Monday, we're going to start hitting Shackleton hard. Yes, Flux, there were no eating each other, but once we finish with Shackleton, we're going to be looking at another tale of another group that was trapped on the ice in Antarctica that did not go as well as Shackleton's expedition did. So we'll talk about that later. So that's what we're going to be doing for the next little while here. So enjoy that and hit the like, hit the subscribe button. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to end the stream. Slidey Pie says that's over on Rumble, says that sounds like a great story. It is. It is one of the best stories you will ever hear. Right. So I can't think of anything else we need to discuss. We got everything read. We got everything taken care of. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We're going to wrap this up, and I will see you tomorrow for, once again, Sarah. Boom. We'll take another journey in the suitcase of love. And with that, I'm going to bid you all a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are and whoever you are and whatever you're doing. Please continue, and I'm going to send you off into the wild. Everybody, Jill Ems needs to go to bed, and so do I. Good night, Jill Ems, and good night, everybody else. Thank you, mods, for being everywhere, and probationary mod Liz. Thank you, everyone. Mods, for doing your jobs. Thank you, chat, for being the greatest chat on the entire internet. And thank you for all of the support, the super chats, the gifted memberships, the purchase memberships. We didn't have any gifted membership. The purchase memberships and the super chats and the Venmo. And for getting us to day 76, keeping the streak alive for the emotional support potato pig dogs. Good night, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Have an awesome time. Larax saying peace out. Whoever you are, whatever you're doing, and make sure you just always enjoy those legal